50-50 ball. It's picked off. The black shirts with the dagger. Malcolm Hartzog with a giant pick sails the night for the Big Red.
Drifts back to throw, dumps it to an underneath crosser. Goody made the catch, got popped. Ball's loose, but they say incomplete.
This is the Friday Husker Tailgate with Jack Mitchell, Nate Rohr, John Bishop, and Kevin Suits on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Hey, we made it, everybody. Woo! Hello. Don't take my voice to me and its squeakiness. Just going through a second puberty, perhaps. Right?
Your voice is to voices what Lincoln Construction is to construction.
Oh, baby. Don't even. The listeners are probably tired, although they probably all agree with me. They are tired of my thoughts because I went on John, I have gotten some guff over the years because I have not been critical enough sometimes as maybe the general listening populace has been about certain things, city services, those sorts of things. I have made up for it and interest.
And you should.
With the road construction.
You should.
I had to do Drive Time Lincoln last night from home because I could not get here in time.
I saw that. I saw your thread.
From 27th and roughly 27th and South to my house. You know, I live kind of by Holmes Lake to drop my daughter off. Left at 4:15. I could not get to my house and here by 5 p.m. And so
now, as someone who famously avoids driving through the city of Lincoln at all costs, I mean, I traverse around the city when I go home. Has the Normal Street project been going on since Tom Osborne was head coach?
It is. The reverberations of that one specifically.
I mean, it's stunning.
Just been unbelievable. It has affected an area. I said this yesterday on the show, from I believe 84th and Old Cheney all the way to 56th and maybe Vine. I mean, that whole area.
I mean, how much are they actually doing? Because where I see, when I come in here to 44th and O, I see all the cones, but I don't see any construction.
On Normal?
Yeah. No. On 40th Street coming in. Oh. On 40th Street coming in. I see a lot of cones, but I'm like, there's no trucks. There's no cranes, or not cranes.
One of the things. I mean, 56 has kind of been that way for a long time. Yeah. Yesterday, 70th was also, they were doing some aloe work out there.
Y'all realize that today is October the 10th.
Yes.
Winter is coming. In the words of,
there's a whole. I went over on Drive Time Lincoln yesterday. I went over because I'm not just a negative guy. I went over all of the roads scheduled to open today, which includes the western chunk of Normal that's being worked on. So congratulations to those of you who communicate to downtown every day. Hopefully that'll be better for you. But in any case, listen, we're here for once not to talk about street construction. We get plenty of that. We have, and
why
we will.
Am I here?
And we are ready for Nebraska to take on Maryland on the road. Here we are 10 days in October and looking at our first true road game. Although, again, I'm not sure yet you're going to get to a game where Nebraska fans aren't in the majority or close to the majority of that fan base at Maryland. This in Maryland, from what I've heard, it is kind of a bit of a fickle fan base, and they tend to think once something goes wrong in October, it might be worth kind of checking out for Maryland, and that happened last week for them.
It's also a basketball school
against Washington.
It's pro market.
It's a basketball. It's a basketball school. You do have a lot of Nebraska alums in the area who don't get a lot of home games, especially in that area of the country. Probably can get really cheap tickets. I don't know what the get-in cost for that Maryland game is, but I'm going to guess it's not much over $30.
Probably not, but then you got your East Coast inflation.
East Coast inflation.
Get there, you got to eat.
You got to get those crab cakes. I would like some crab cakes this weekend. I might make some crab cakes tomorrow for the game.
You're going to go fish there in the Salt Creek?
Yeah, no, there's Holmes.
Some crabs.
Just Holmes.
Or Holmes.
Go on the beach.
That's
and
safe.
I'll do some crabbing. I don't really know how you catch crabs, to be honest. I assume night crawlers. And then
By the way, boys, you can get into
Nightcrawlers
this
are
one
the
at
answer for everything.
$52.
$52.
That's
Really?
face
That
value.
much?
Well, that's from the university.
Oh,
Like,
Get on that
Secondary
secondary market.
Yeah.
There'll be Maryland fans who are deciding. Now, weather does look good. First thing I checked
does
this
it?
week,
Because they were worried about the wet balls yesterday. Talking about the
Well,
wet football,
that's-
practicing with the wet footballs.
that's about something else. Let's see. College Park,
okay.
Maryland forecast tomorrow, 68 degrees high. Looks like a chance of some rain there, and I'll get into the details. Of course, we love to. Oh yeah, there we go. That's what I needed. Thanks for showing me how to use the internet.
You're welcome.
Chances in terms of the wind, we are looking at not much.
Not bad.
8 miles an hour,
We're a little wind sensitive these days.
and rain chances are actually pretty low.
Oh, okay,
Only
that's
10
not so bad.
only about 10% during the course of the game. So
Yeah.
now
That'll be fine.
weather should not be much of a factor this week, as opposed to last week. You know, it is an odd game, and with all of that said, about what it's going to be like there, because I do think it's not going to be a really incredibly overwhelming road atmosphere. In fact, Nebraska, I guess at Minnesota, Nebraska will kind of see that, but it'll be odd because you're going to have a season where you really go a long time until you truly see that a whole bunch during the course of this year. I mean, it'll be Penn State, right?
Yeah.
And
Maybe
by the way,
only.
who knows what the atmosphere in that stadium will be by that point?
Right.
But in any case, Nebraska, again, this schedule this year, boy, if you were ever going to take advantage of a schedule that's set up, I mean, this is a schedule from the gods this year.
Yep.
and it seems to be getting easier.
It does for the most
Using air
part, right?
quotes, easier.
And we're going to talk about that in the morning drive today, because every week it seems to look, yes, a little bit, quote unquote, easier in terms of at least how we looked at it perhaps at the beginning of the season. But the Maryland one's interesting because I still don't feel like I've got a great grasp on what kind of a challenge Maryland presents in this game. And I think for the entirety of sort of looking at this 4-game period that we're in the midst of now, Michigan State, Maryland, Minnesota, Northwestern, I've always thought Maryland, this upcoming game, is the biggest challenge of the 4 of them, or I've thought that for the last couple of weeks. And I think I still probably feel that way. The argument's probably that one or Minnesota. But I think in particular, it's because while last week, while we were breaking down the statistical matchups, it felt like we kept saying, boy, it seems like this is a good matchup for Nebraska. This is a good matchup for Nebraska in a whole lot of ways. It is like that way less for Maryland. And the biggest thing in this game, and I think we probably all agree on this, is the ability for Nebraska's offense to give Dylan Raiola some time to pass in the pocket. And this is one thing. Maryland's about as good as anyone as Nebraska can or will see in terms of putting pressure on the quarterbacks, getting to pay dirt, getting sacks, having multiple places they can bring it from. Their offense isn't going to necessarily set the world on fire. The run defense isn't necessarily going to set the world on fire. But that is what this team has done very, very, very well this year, is get to that quarterback. And that is, if anything, in my opinion, clearly the Achilles heel of this Nebraska team.
Right. Now, part of this is we're a little shell-shocked because it's happened here recently. We didn't, after the 3rd game, who was that? Houston Christian?
Yeah.
It's not like anyone was worried about the pass protection. They forgot probably that 3 sacks happened against Cincinnati. But when you give up 12 sacks in 2 games, yeah, you're going to be a little bit shell-shocked. I've had this game circled for a few weeks because I think, first off, because Maryland, during the offseason, all the talk out of Maryland, it sounded like, Bill Belichick, North Carolina light. It sounded like there was dissension. Mike Loxley was, talking about how the locker room was splintered, and this is stuff, you're talking about during training camp.
Yeah.
And so the assumption was, oh, wow, well, Maryland's going to be a hot mess. And then they come out, they win 4 in a row. They go to Camp Randall and absolutely destroy Wisconsin. And you're like, okay, well, they got something here. And, they, like Nebraska did last year, has a rookie 5-star quarterback, and they've got some excitement behind them. But if you look at the X's and O's, if you look at the matchup, yeah, does it concern you that Maryland gets after the passer? Absolutely it does. I'd like to think that because of what has happened the last couple of weeks, there has been a re-emphasis on not only the pass protection, but getting the ball out quicker, calling better plays to get the ball out faster, or, things that will, maybe speed up the offense a little bit. Obviously, making sure that you're picking up your assignments properly, receivers getting open quicker. And so while I'm not saying Nebraska is going to have a perfect game in terms of protecting Dillon, I'd like to think that, their radars are definitely up. The awareness is definitely heightened, and they will do everything in their power to mitigate that, because if you do mitigate their ability to get after Dillon, everything else sets up a lot better. You said it. Their offense is not, it doesn't light the world on fire. And the thing that they do best is what Nebraska does best on defense, and that's pass defense. So, and special teams wise, I think we can now officially say it here as we reach the halfway part of the season. Special teams is now a strength. It's not a, hey, we're not losing the game like it used to. It's now a strength. And that's something, especially on the road, especially in the wake of not having a running game that you're totally sold on.
Right.
Special teams can help a lot in road environments, and winning games like this. So yeah, I think Nebraska will be in good shape if they address some of those things. They don't have to fix them all, because it may not be able to be fixed all. But if they can address it maybe a little bit differently and have a good plan for it, I think they can mitigate some of the damage.
Yeah, it's about mitigating your weaknesses at this point. There's not a silver bullet in terms of pass protection. They can't pick up an H-back sort of tight end or a better offensive tackle on the waiver wire. It's what plays are you calling to put Dylan Raiola in the best chance to either get rid of the ball or get it out of his hands from the jump. And that's where there's an opportunity for this running game. I mean, hey, this has been a great pass rush, but these guys are freshmen. These guys are young guys. It's a chance for this offensive line to assert itself in the run game. And look, Nebraska's not going to roll up 300 yards rushing on anybody this year, but at least early on in the game, establish the run. This is also where you utilize things like screens to blunt the pass rush and to take them out of the equation, or at least certainly reduce them and get their offense in a place where they're probably going to go anyway. They're not going to run the ball and win this game. And so you can pin your ears back, get after the freshman quarterback, and then let your great defensive backs eat. But it's a chance for this offensive line to say we can run the ball some. And Matt Rule this week was fighting back the idea that, hey, the offensive line, Nebraska can't run the ball. Emmett Johnson's third in the league in rushing. And there's a lot of noise around that stat, but they were able to run it some in the fourth quarter. And Johnson ended up with a good game. And I think Michigan State's defensive line and defense as a whole, especially against the run, was better than the one Nebraska's going to see tomorrow.
Yeah. And to both of your points about sort of understanding that you've got a bit of a weakness there, but listen, one of the things good offenses do, right, if they don't have perfect personnel, is they know how to play call to their strengths.
Yeah.
And I do think as that Michigan State game went on, they found more ways to do that. In fact, there were times when, during that second and third quarter, when everything looked wrong, there was a part of me that said, how is there not a middle screen in here, right? If they're going to be there, or some kind of a draw play. I mean, even a quarterback draw. And I think they did run one at that point, but like there are, it doesn't have to be a 5-step drop every single time.
No.
Right. There are ways. And especially now that you feel like you have got some options on this offense that if you get the ball in their hands, in the receiving core, at tight end position as well, some of these more kind of gadget players that you've got, like a Mosey and those sorts of guys, figuring out how to get the ball in their hands without necessarily making Dylan Raiola have to drop back, right? And give that defensive line, the ends, the edges, those sorts of things, and make that defense think a little bit about pinning their ears back. And I think they did that. I think the Emmett Johnson touchdown, the longer Emmett Johnson touchdown was a part of the reason that happened. I think that the touchdown that Isaiah Hunter had as well, same thing as well. They took advantage of the defense's aggressiveness, and that I feel like we haven't talked about all that much, but that's going to be something they're going to have to do throughout the course of the year, because as you pointed out, there's no waiver wire. They are who they are on the offensive line, and you're going to continue to face several teams. Maryland is going to be probably one of the best in terms of pass rush, but certainly Penn State's going to be able to do that. Certainly Iowa's going to be able to do that as well. And that's one of the big things about this game is, can Dana Holgorsen find out some ways to just mitigate that issue for Nebraska with what they've got offensively? So that will be fascinating, and using the run game as well. And that's another point, right? Is just one of the ways that you start to make teams think twice about unleashing that pass rush is by getting the running back behind them and taking advantage of that. And I don't, they had the runs late in the game. We're going to talk more about the run game this year, but Nate, you're exactly right. It is so hard to really know how to talk about this running game, because when Matt Rule says that, Emmett Johnson's stats are good.
Right.
I don't know how you can't look at, his stats for the last game were good. He had a good game last week as well. Somehow both that is true, but also true is that Nebraska's running game doesn't feel like a weapon for this offense. How can both be true exactly? But it feels, I think we all feel like it is.
Well, I mean, a lot of it is because, Emmett has been the primary ball carrier. And unfortunately, because of all the sacks come off the rushing yards in the NCAA. And so it kind of turns everything around. But you're right. And there have been times where I've thought, man, if they need to really run the ball here, and then they don't. Nebraska is, if you look at what the play that is called, so you're counting sacks as, drop backs and other things. I mean, Nebraska is basically a 60% passing team right now.
Yeah.
And I think that is something, I'm not saying it has to balance out, but I think there has to be more of an effort at times to just say, no, we're going to run this here. We're going to do this. And maybe this is the week for it, because the old axiom in football is you got to be able to run the ball on the road. And so maybe we'll see a little bit more of that as time goes on. But you're right. I mean, you look at Emmett's numbers, he averaged 6 yards a carry last week. You could have knocked me over with a shovel if you would have said that to me, because it didn't feel like it. Not that I thought Emmett was playing badly, but just how the flow of that game was going. And it seemed like Nebraska was either losing yards or making chunk plays, that getting lost in all the sauce was Emmett's getting 6 yards a carry.
What else does he need to do? Exactly. Right. And he doesn't, Justice Haynes is the top running back in the conference. One of the few running backs Emmett's behind statistically. Justin Haynes gets a 70-yard touchdown every game.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's not like we talk about Emmett Johnson's stats, and sometimes stats can get really skewed by, he had one, game where he went for 175, or like you said with Haynes, where he busts off a big run. That's not the case with Emmett Johnson. I've joked, it seems like every Emmett Johnson run is 4 yards, not more, not less, but 4 yards will keep you on schedule. And especially against a Maryland team where, whatever issues you have with Nebraska's offensive line, and there are, decidedly issues, Nebraska should have more physical strength than Maryland. Like, this is a game where you should be able to consistently run the football. And to that end,
that'd be huge.
You hope that that's sort of the focus of how Dana Holgorsen has set up the game plan on the offensive side, to engage Emmett Johnson early. The other thing is it helps your offensive line. As you, with the offensive line, are coming forward, firing off the ball in terms of running it, that gives you a little confidence. That gives you a little belief to where you're in a little better shape to pass block. So I think that I at least hope that the run game is a bigger emphasis this week against Maryland. You know, I know they played Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a different animal than we're all used to, you know, in terms of what they want to do offensively and running the football. You know, this Maryland team hasn't really been tested in that way. And those young defensive linemen have not really been tested in that way. So let's see what they've got.
Yeah. I mean, man, you talk about maybe the biggest thing you could do right now to take the pressure off the offensive line and Dylan Raiola in the passing game is, yes, making teams worried about the run game, because that seems to be the difference, right? Yes, the stats are there for Emmett Johnson, but there still isn't a defense that comes in saying, hey, we've got to worry about this running game, I think. And it still seems, I think, as you referred to, John, is that even when there are situations where you are in running inside of the 10-yard line, for instance.
Yep.
I mean, the coaching staff, the way they call plays, and I'm not blaming them, but I don't feel like they think that they've got a great likelihood of success by running when other teams think they are going to run. It's a big problem, as we've alluded to, when Nebraska's had trouble in the red zone, because when it's 2nd and 3 against Michigan, if you're confident that you can do that, the play call that they played in that situation, the call that they called in that situation, is not what it would have been. It would have been Emmett Johnson, right? Running in that situation. Yet you've got that's the rub here with this whole thing, is that, yeah, you do have a guy who's been statistically very good running the ball, but yet you don't seem to trust it when you need it the most and when it is the most obvious thing to do. That's where they have to get, and that's the biggest thing I think that you can do, short of changing out personnel, right, and short of Dylan changing his pocket presence to get there. So, yeah.
And Emmett has not had a 20-carry game since the first game of the season.
He's not being
out, so he's not being overused.
Yes, let's get this thing out of there that he's, you know, overused at this point.
There's an analytics stat called line yards, and those are the yards running that is credited to the offensive line. It basically means that you're really good getting those first 2 or 3 yards. And Nebraska's in the 90th plus percentile in line yards this year. So it shows you that, you know, kind of going back to Nate's point about it seems like every gain is 4 yards. If you can continue to do that, that moves the chains. That makes the defense a little more honest. That also opens up your play action game.
Yeah.
Because play action has no effect if the other team doesn't respect your running game.
Yep, 100%.
So all of those things put together could be good. And I know we spent the first part of this segment, I'm guessing the older folks are really loving this because we're run the ball guy here.
There you go. We did it for you, John.
But that's not saying you're going to take the ball out of Dylan's hands because he's still obviously the focal point of your team.
With it.
But again, we started this conversation with how do you mitigate the pass rush? How do you mitigate giving up all the sacks and losing yards and having just awful drives like we saw last week? I mean, folks, those were 2 of the worst offensive quarters I have ever seen.
Agreed.
Yes.
In any game, anywhere, period. I mean, it was a disaster. And while you
credit Nebraska for overcoming it and winning the game on the scoreboard rather comfortably, you're not going to be able to live like that at Minnesota, at Maryland, in most of the games the rest of this season. So if you want to avoid having those moments, one of the things that's going to help is, obviously play calling and having a running game that, you trust when you need it.
Yep. And there's the big word, trust.
Right.
Do you trust
Right.
Emmett Johnson to carry it? Trust this offensive line to block well enough in the run game. That adjustment has been made again in film on the play sheet with Dana Holgerson talking with Matt Rule during the week, that they trust this run game to do its job. And again, Maryland is the team to try this against. This is not what you do, and to try and build some confidence, frankly, going into next week, because you're, as much as you're probably going to need the run game tomorrow, you are absolutely going to need that run game a week from now in Minneapolis.
Yes.
And it's a good time to take the temperature on that.
We need to take a break, but one more thing to your point. While we all loved, I think, that the first touchdown the offense scored and the way that it was drawn up with Heinrich Harburg in there as well, that's not a play you need if you feel like you can traditionally run it
right
in that situation.
Yep.
All right, 6:33. We'll take a break. Sound off is next. Got a bunch of the clips from the week that'll set up some more discussion about this game coming up. Nebraska and Maryland, a chance to get to 5-1 for the Huskers.
Let's go.
See if they can do it. It's coming up next. KLIN.
I'm having all kinds of
Husker football,
happening.
men's
It's
basketball,
overhit.
and baseball, with a little volleyball, women's basketball, and softball thrown in. 1499.3 KLIN.
Well, whatever you got
Do
that's
you need
showing
replacement
now.
parts for your hydraulic machinery and equipment? Surplus Center offers affordable
yeah, 'cause
prices
Nate's
on
was off
premium
for a bit.
products. Honda
still are
engines,
getting audio
Sprint
from everyone through the
hydraulics,
board, though, right?
worldwide electric gearboxes and motors, and a wide range of hydraulic accessories. Ship nationwide or pick up locally at 1015 West O Street in Lincoln, Nebraska.
I did,
Call 800-488-3407
I
or
saw
visit
your
surpluscenter.com to start your order. Once again, 800-488-3407 or surpluscenter.com.
But man,
Come in and
you
try the
talk
Good
about
Feet
a
feeling
team
today.
that got-
Energy,
was confident,
performance, and
okay, to
premium
get 3 or
at the Good
4
Feet
yards
store.
to play
Visit the
and
store
just
for a
never
free
get
test walk
behind
at 27th and
the
Pine
line
Lake
of
Road
scrimmage.
across from South Point Mall
That's as good
and
as
a smart
I've
or
seen
at goodfeet.com.
Thanks to the Good Feet
Yeah, and man, it's just so bad.
According to
Because
a
those are probably the
2022
two
FBI
best
statistic, less than
non-metro teams now.
0.01% of
And
all
check out
altercations
the whole
require
freaking
a lethal
metro.
response. Now,
High
think
school
about
football
that.
today would be
Now, we
fun.
all have
Right.
a safety plan.
East,
If you don't,
Southeast,
you need one that
Kearney,
includes
Columbus,
firearms.
Fremont,
That's only
North
necessary
Park.
less than
No,
1% of the
it
time.
would
So,
be-
what is your
and a
new
few- I
plan
mean,
for
there's a few
99.99% of the
but
time?
they're all
So, you
either
can start
here
with
or
the
here. And
burner
it's like-
launcher, BYRNA.
That's
It's
the
the less
problem,
lethal launcher
is
that can
Omaha is the
de-escalate any
floor and
situation
ceiling.
for 99% of
Yeah,
any
it's
altercations.
stupid. I
Now, the
mean,
new burner compact launcher is the
It- I mean,
smallest,
look,
less
you
lethal
have to do a
option to date. It's
comprehensive review
concealable
of what is
anywhere.
going on, and if it means you have to
And it doesn't.
reclassify, or I mean, first thing you need to do is come up with some rules.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I listened to your segment on this yesterday. I agree with everything you said.
It's just, you got to come up with something. I am tired of these egomaniac coaches who are looking for career advancement using
What
using
the hell is the
public
point of
schools
what
as
Millard South is doing exactly? I mean, why are they playing teams from Las Vegas? Like there's no national tournament at the end of the year. Like,
True, but they think they can raise. If you play in that, then you'll keep getting the sort
Right.
of players.
and if you're a college
It
prep
becomes
program,
a-
you get exposure
Right.
to that way.
But again, I would be all for just, hey, you all want to do this, just have your little football academy.
Give me 2 metro leagues. Give me the haves and the have-nots in metro, and separate Omaha Metro and then
Right.
Class A.
Yeah.
And then you guys can have whatever rules you want. If you want to allow recruiting,
and
pay
then,
each other,
and then
trade.
give me Kearney and Southeast and Grand Island and North Platte and
Right.
and
And it
Southwest and
And
East.
by the way, it doesn't help that there's one city in the state that can do that.
Right.
I mean,
because it does. By the way, Lincoln has open transfer rules, right?
But it doesn't get them anywhere.
But it's not. It doesn't look anything like Omaha.
Right.
Welcome back to the Friday Husker Tailgate.
But it's just a sweet, sweet fantasy bag.
Your Fantasy Huskers keyword, presented by Nebraska Sign Company. From Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
The 274 of you watching us on the stream right now just got treated to Nate Rohr dancing from Mariah Carey.
That needs to be
Much like my middle school days.
There we go. There we go. Oh, boy. I bet you were lighting some dance floors on fire in Beatrice back in the early aughts.
No, I was standing back.
Oh, wow. Well, they missed out. They missed out when you see those kinds of moves.
Oh, yeah.
Two picks left this week in Fantasy Huskers, guys. 8 are gone. Today's keyword, by the way, crab. C-R-A-B. See, I'm not going to spell it again. Crab. Text that in. Put irrigation text on. You know it works by now. And we will pick one of you to make a pick
in Fantasy Huskers.
Fun last week with the highest jersey number to score a touchdown. We just flipped it on its head. I don't know if this is harder or easier. We asked for what was the lowest jersey number to score a touchdown. Now, in this one, there's a very clear first pick overall. You get Ja'Cory Barnes with the first pick. No doubt about it. Right, because it is the lowest numbered offensive player, and maybe the most likely to score a touchdown outside of Emmett Johnson. Correct. So, and that's how it went. It went according to plan. Carey took number 2 off the board. Nate picked number 6. Not Nate. Listener Nate took number 6. I think the right next pick. Richard took number 10. Probably the next best pick with Heinrich Harburg. Kathy took 13. Clear pick. Cindy took 21. There's certainly a scenario where Emmett Johnson is the only one who scores touchdowns. For Nebraska. It almost happened last week. Brian in Omaha went with 19. That would be if Cortez Mills scores a touchdown and they shut Emmett out and all the running backs out somehow.
And you get a side Quinn Clark.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. And then he's 18. Is that right? Yeah. And then Chicken Rich. We kept saying, well, somebody you might want to just see if you can get a defensive touchdown by a low number. That's what Chicken Rich did. He did one, and so as of right now, Scott did 50. So he's got Dylan Raiola and above. Chicken Rich with 1 is interesting. Right now he's got a scenario where Javen Wright or Sierra Wright scores a touchdown. Correct. And he's got it. Now he could get undercut by one of our pickers who could say, "I'll just take Javen." Okay, at 0.
Yeah. I think that's a very low percentage.
That's probably the next pick, right?
What's your next?
What else are you thinking? The only other thing you could do, I guess, the next thing you do is take 22. And then you get if all of the scores are 22 or higher.
Yeah, you got so your backup running backs, Luke Lindenmeyer. We don't have receivers in the 80s anymore, do we?
There's one we did because we talked about it last week. Who was it? Keelan Smith.
He played some.
Yeah, you're right.
He's the only.
I mean, look, Lindenmeyer goes off 5 touchdowns, and you got your alumni hog. If that happens, you know. So probably 22 and 0 are the last 2 picks, I think. But you can do whatever you want.
Well, what is Mosey's number?
22.
Oh, it is 22. It is 22. Yeah, I think that's probably your next.
22.
I think that's a higher percentage than if you just undercut and go 0.
The only other thing you do is you just pick a specific non-offensive player. Right, other than Javen Wright, and you say, hey, Deshaun Singleton had 2 picks last week.
Low is the only guy to score a touchdown.
Right.
Could have
if it's only numbers higher, then
that's true.
Yeah. This one, we're going to go to a non-jersey number 1 next week because the strategy has been fun. So text that in 402-479-1400. All right. Nate Soundy worked hard to get us a sound, so we need to use some of it here this week. Nate, what did you hear this week that was interesting to you?
So we heard from Coach Matt Rule. We'll go with that sound as Matt Rule Rule was asked about the weather. First off, and we had talked about this a little bit. That they were a little worried about the rain coming in. Of course, it was a factor with the wind. Last week, part of the reason why Nebraska had the troubles they did, and so Coach Rule was asked about the weather and what he anticipated there.
It looks like initially it looked like it wouldn't get to us. We Susan does a great job of every day updates the weather and wind. But we did wet ball stuff during the course of the week. We much prefer rain to wind. So the rain, we practice outside here. We never go inside. So we pretty much prepare for it all year. But we did do wet balls this week just to be prepared for it.
Always important.
Did some wet balls this week.
Yes.
On the larger topic of weather, it's just kind of funny to me. I noted this earlier this week is that I don't know of many coaches that spoke more about the weather, the future weather, than Matt Rule did in his first year or two at Nebraska, and talking about being a team that was built for Big Ten weather in October and November, perhaps December. And here he seems to have after all of that he seems to have made a team that is built for the weather in California. To be honest, but I mean, Dylan Raiola came in and kind of messed that whole plan up. I feel like.
Well, perhaps, he was thinking we're going to be like we were at Baylor. Keep the ball on the ground, and do all that. But no, it is a little funny that you're right. This team is probably more built for a Pac-12 in terms of its offensive style than it is the weather itself. And we saw what the wind did last week. I mean, it affected both teams. I personally thought it affected Giles more than it affected Dylan. But now they're working out with the footballs and trying to figure out what's going on with the weather. It doesn't look like it's going to be as wet. It's good to know that they're prepared. I like to think that Rule was Boy Scout back in the day because he's always prepared.
Yeah. I will say this too. We talk about the things that have improved. Special teams has improved. Penalties haven't as bad. And I hate to bring it up because you don't want to talk about it into existence. But man, the lack of fumbles this year compared to what we've seen in other years. I mean, what a difference. And there have been a few. You had Dylan jump back on that one against Cincinnati. You had Emmett lose one, I believe, against Akron. Yeah, there have been a couple. But it's nothing. Go back to year one for Matt Rule. Sure. Right? And you had Grant against Minnesota. Devastating in that first game. There have been a whole. I mean, that was such an issue. And just to take that out, the amount that has changed the game. And I don't know that wet football is going to make that much of a difference. But they have done. I mean, to the degree that they have been intentionally trying to improve ball security specifically with fumbles, it's shown over the course of this year, and that's been great. And again, credit to Dylan too, because he has been sacked a lot.
He has been sacked a lot, and there have been times where I thought that ball's got to be out. Right, watching from the press box, it looks like that ball's got to be out. And see, that's the other area why you want to try to mitigate the sacks because a strip sack is coming, and it's just inevitable. It's just inevitable when a quarterback's back there. Doesn't see it. Gets hit by surprise. He doesn't have both hands on the ball because he's getting ready to throw. It's a disaster waiting to happen. And so you hope that at some point you get the protection issue shored up enough, because just the sheer odds say it's going to happen. And those are usually the most devastating fumbles, because those are the ones that generally get picked up and returned for its
And the other place we haven't seen them, and you'd seen them frankly a lot, I don't have to go too far back to the Iowa game last year, punt returns.
Sure.
Punt returns. Yeah. Or see what Michigan State did on that kick return.
Yeah.
For Nebraska.
I mean, fumbles haven't happened in special
the intersection of special teams and fumbles. If Nebraska can keep those things going, we can talk more about this, but just those things those bugaboos that they seem to have worked out this year, whatever the other problems are, that is going to be enough to be a big step up over the course of this year.
Sure. I mean, how many times did we sit there and say, okay, Nebraska's out-yarded them, outgained them, but they turned the ball over 4 times, and and didn't.
Or gave up a punt return.
Exactly. Here's my thing. So we're talking about Nebraska's play style right now, and how it contrasts with kind of the vision Matt Rule seemed to communicate at the beginning of his tenure, because you thought this would be a bow your neck, big running back, Big Ten sort of team. How much does how Nebraska looks right now continue on? I mean, TJ Latif's a different type of quarterback. We don't know about Dayton Raiola
Long
yet.
term, you mean? Yeah, that's a great question.
And not to rush Dylan Raiola off the stage, but I mean, we're about halfway through his career if he finishes this year strong and has a good year next year.
Well, assuming he's fine and here next year, I assume next year's offense is going to look very similar to this year's offense. But if TJ Latif is the heir after that, it'll definitely look different in that case.
Sure.
And the other thing is going to depend too on, who they've got in that running back room. And we've given Emmett Johnson his flowers right now, but let's be honest, Nebraska's not recruited at as high a level at running back as they have at quarterback or at wide receiver, or a whole bunch of other positions for whatever reason. And then if you get a guy who you're like, well, the running back is the weapon on this team. The running back is the Ja'Cory Barney of this team, or whomever, or I think that changes it too. But that's a really interesting question to think about. I mean, I think he's going to be flexible based on what he's got, and Rule has been that over his career on offense, at least.
Yeah, it's not like he's married to and for that matter, even Dana Holgerson. Dana Holgerson, I think, leans more past than even Matt Rule.
Right.
But he's not quite disavowed, but certainly downplayed his air raid roots as far as what he wants to do offensively and where he wants to go.
Right.
And so he's at least more open to it. So I just think that's interesting looking forward.
In the end, Rule really wants to be a smash mouth guy, though.
Yes.
Right.
That's heart of hearts.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. What else we got?
Well, of course, Carter Nelson came up with a big special teams play last week, picking up the block punt, returning it for a touchdown. You also had a fumble recovery, and Matt Rule was asked about how Carter Nelson has grown through his time on special teams.
Does two things. It develops guys with game reps, and as they start making plays with that, the game doesn't become quite as big, and so then their roles and your comfort with them and their roles goes up in other areas. And then number two, with the way that we're playing special teams and the things that we're trying to do, and taking some chances and trying to be explosive, guys are not just playing special teams; they're causing you to win. I mean, if you're out there on punt return right now, hey, go block a punt and change the game. If you're on a field goal, hey, go block a field goal and change the game. And so it's not like, hey, I'm going to go play special teams because coach wants me to play special teams. It's I'm going to go affect winning, and that's a cool mindset to have.
Yeah, so that just goes to show how a guy build himself on special teams, not just the basic skills of blocking and tackling, but the whole confidence thing, the whole belief thing. I mean, we saw it for years where guys would make their name on special teams or contribute in the return game or whatever. And then when they got out there and lined up for a scrimmage down, for a normal play from scrimmage, they believed, hey, I did that well. I can now block, on a run play well, or, whatever assignment you want. So, it I think speaks to the larger program building vision of Matt Rule, where he's looking at the special teams, one, just getting better there, but also, hey, if you're a young guy, that's a good place for you to build up some tape and some resume and some reps to where you can go out there with a little more confidence.
When you have the athletic chops that a Carter Nelson has, and you have the recruiting reputation, the stars next to his name, the different teams that were interested in him, and you're spending time on the bench and you're not doing a whole lot.
Yeah.
A lot of those kids can get real disgruntled and like, why am I here? Why I should be somewhere else. This is so important for Nebraska and for him to have found this role and to to keep someone engaged, because it's harder than ever to retain these kids. The transfer issue wasn't much of an issue, 20, 30 years ago, but it is today. And certainly there'll be a lot of folks in the offseason going, man, whatever happened to that, 4-star kid that was really good. That he has embraced it, and that the team has embraced a more of a special teams identity. All this coming together at the same time is nothing but good for Carter Nelson.
Yeah.
And I'm not guaranteeing that he'll still be here next year or the year after that, but the odds of him being fulfilled by what's happening and have that internal feeling of these coaches believe in me and they know that I have a place here, it's a huge asset. It's an absolutely huge asset. So I was very happy to see, he was in there, and what was the first thing that he did? He got the easy scoop touchdown. Yeah. First thing he did was he found Khan and celebrated with him, because it was like, brother, you're the one that got me this opportunity. And you love to see that. So yeah, the renaissance of Nebraska's special teams is important in a lot of reasons. And this is one of them, because it keeps players like this who you feel have a role for you, a bigger role for you down the road.
Right.
It keeps them engaged. It makes them feel like we are contributing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Put Khan and Mosey in that box too, right?
Sure. Correct.
And there are probably other guys as well.
Yeah.
All right. I know you got one more on playing on the road, what you kind of learn about your team when you play on the road.
It's the first chance for Nebraska to play in at least something of a hostile environment. I mean, the first 5 games, they've either been on their home field or they just as well have been. But it's their first chance to go on the road far away from home and see what they can do in a big-time environment.
As all great teams do 3 things. They eliminate distractions, they create their own energy, they fear nothing and attack everything. And I think the first 2 are very, very applicable when you're on the road. We won't have what I think is the best student section in the world. We won't have them there an hour and a half before the game cheering for us. We won't have our own locker rooms, our own things. So you're in a new place. It's just us. Now, we're obviously blessed that our fans travel at a high being but you get the point of, being in Memorial Stadium, obviously. So you have to create your own energy. It has to come from brotherhood and caring about each other and the love of watching your teammate, make a play and cheering each other on. So that juice has to come from us, and you have to eliminate the distractions, right? I'm lucky that we have a guy like Corey Campbell that, he does the travel meeting for me. I don't have to get up there and be like, remember, I'm lucky that we have a guy like Mitch Cholowinski, sports science, who just, they eliminate all those distractions. What Kristen does, taking our own chefs on the road and all that, like cooking for our guys, eliminates that distraction. And then, Susan, Thomas Bowling, they work so hard on the travel, and hey, we think it's going to take this long to get here. So eliminating those distractions, because we don't want to make excuses, and we don't want to let others make them for us. And so I think you do that, then all of a sudden you turn going on the road, which can be, it's a little bit harder. You turn it into a positive. And I think all of our guys are really, really excited to get in the hotel and spend 2 nights together and, chill and at the same time go work for a common goal.
It's just trying to address the things that might be friction on the road. And of course, Nebraska has the resources to do it. And this is a team that seems to like each other, which is a strange thing to say and something we don't talk about a whole lot, but it feels like they're all pretty invested in each other.
There's been an ongoing theme here the last couple of weeks of Big Ten coaches complaining about the travel. And I think the best example was Lincoln Riley. He basically spoke, their troubles in Champaign into existence.
Right. Yep.
And I mean, red flags were going up the nanosecond I heard that. And then when I saw the score and watched the game, I was like, yep. And I'm not saying that's the only reason they lost that game, but the last thing you want to do, this is a tough enough sport. This is a tough enough game. Don't make it tougher on yourself by speaking negativity into existence. Sadly, I think Matt Rule may have been guilty of it, with the fumble, talking about the fumble last year, Minnesota, and was it last year or 2 years ago? I can't remember now. but I'm glad that, you know, at every turn that he has been asked about it or has addressed it, he has addressed what they're doing, and he is doing it in a way where it's like, we're not making excuses. Yeah, we're going on the road. Everybody knows when you go on the road, it's tougher to win. Period. That's an irrefutable fact. But he is not going to turn this into a bigger issue than it needs to be. And I like the approach that they've taken this week. So I'm do I think Nebraska maybe won't win it as comfortably as I might if they were playing in Lincoln? Sure. But I'm not worried about Nebraska not responding well because of travel on Saturday.
Yeah, but I mean, even if you don't, first of all, people, it's not like travel got invented 3 years ago with the advent of the Big Ten.
And been doing it forever.
And even if you don't like it, why you would, when you're a coach, one of the biggest things that you're always telling your team is no excuses, do your job, no excuses. Right. Why in the, what an way to push back against your own message by whining about it in public before games. And I have no idea even if you feel that way, why you would say it so your team can hear it. I have no idea.
The best example of that I can think of locally, I can remember in the waning days of the John Sanders era in Nebraska baseball. Every time, at every turn, he would talk about, we're up north. It's cold up here. Oklahoma's got an advantage. You know, it's hard to get players here. And then Dave Van Horn comes in and he refuses to talk about it. He refuses to acknowledge it. And it changed the mindset because it's like we're setting an example. We're eliminating excuses. We're going to go out and we're going to get the best players and we're going to play and we're going to coach the best and we're going to go out and we're going to try to win. That is how you lead. You don't lead by coming up with excuses before you even need to come up with excuses. Right? Because excuses is also another way of explaining what happened, right? You don't need to pre-explain what happened.
Exactly.
Because it hasn't happened yet.
Exactly. All right, we'll take a break. 6:58. We got more Friday Husker Tailgate coming up. 61 degrees. By the way, I just saw Brad Anderson forecast for College Park. He had the rain chances a little higher. He had them up at, I think he had up at, what does it say, 50%, 60%?
Yeah, that was the neighborhood I've seen.
All right. 6:58. Maybe those wet balls will matter. You're listening to the Friday Husker Tailgate on KLIN. More coming up.
When you're thinking Huskers,
accelerates up the middle, grinds his way across the 35-yard line.
Think 1499.3 KLIN.
At Vala's Pumpkin Patch and Apple Orchard, we're picking pumpkins from the field and apples in our 30-acre orchard. Vala's has over 50 attractions, live shows daily, and 8 rides included with admission. Open now until November 2nd.
Senior Helpers of Southeast Nebraska leads in providing in-home senior care. They go beyond standard
Fade route, back run to the end zone. Touchdown, Huskers! Isaiah Hunter for the Husker touchdown.
Who do you think you're fooling? Nobody's thinking about their job the day before a Husker game.
Pedals the throw, blitz picked up. Harris went out deep right sideline.
50-50 ball. It's picked off. The black shirts with a dagger. Malcolm Hartzog with a giant pick seals the night for the Big Red.
Drifts back to throw, dumps it to an underneath crosser. Goody made the catch, got popped. Ball's loose, but they say incomplete.
This is the Friday Husker Tailgate with Jack Mitchell, Nate Rohr, John Bishop, and Kevin Suits on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3.
Let's go. Friday before a game. Here we are. It's October. It's the best month of the year. Your Huskers are 4-1, and they are favored going in to Maryland. It's a good time to be a fan. These are the moments we've waited for, not only in the months leading up to the football season, but during the last several football seasons. So let's jump into it. Let's enjoy it. Let's get ready for the weekend. A beautiful weather weekend on tap for Lincoln. Maybe a little rainy over there in College Park, but beautiful weather on tap for Lincoln during the course of this weekend, especially today. Where would you rather be than with us right now on the Friday Husker Tailgate? I'm Jack Mitchell. To my right, Nate Rohr. As always, behind the board, sports director and PA voice of Nebraska football and Kansas City Chiefs football and probably a few other teams that we don't even know about. Soon he'll be the only PA voice of all of sports.
Dare to dream, Jack.
There it is.
Well, you know, NBC brought back the AI voice of the old NBC voiceover guy for their NBA stuff.
I heard that.
So, I mean, it's now possible technologically that Nate can be every place, everywhere.
Nate will have a Sacramento Kings preseason game tonight. He'll have to fly out to do the preseason, PA for
Light the
as well.
beam!
And we got John Bishop to my left. Of course, you know him back here from KLIN and his work now in 1620 The Zone, Unsportsman like conduct. I always love having JB back in here. And then we've got Kenny Larrabee, who is running our video today. If you haven't yet joined us on the Facebook page for KLIN or my Facebook page or the Twitter page or the KLIN YouTube page. Great production here from Kenny. We even had Matt Rule video during our clips.
How about that?
That was great. That looked great. Great work by Nate and Kenny on that. And Kenny's in a good mood because he's a New York Giants fan, and I've never got to say that, having known him for like a decade. So congratulations to Kenny on a big win.
When's the last time the Giants scored 34 points in a game?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Feels like it's been a fur piece.
That's
like
good
Eli
question.
Manning type stuff.
Yeah. By the way, in the video chat, hello to Art in LA.
Art in LA. Artie the one-man party.
Crypto King, who is a frequent viewer listener on Sports Nightly and now hanging with us this morning.
Shout out to Artie. He gets up early there on the West Coast all the time. He's got his Nebraska roots and a radio legend from back in the day too. And so I love having Artie a part of it. So shout out Artie. Artie, if I get tickets to UCLA, go to the Rose Bowl, I expect to sleep on the couch over there at your place. So, just keep it warm for me. We will have Kevin Suits joining us as well during the 8 o'clock hour. I love having Kevin in. And by the way, it's the day before a big holiday for Kevin Suits. 10-11 day is tomorrow.
Oh, yes.
10-11 day.
Yes, it is.
Right? They bring back, everybody comes on back, all of the 10-11 alums, and they have a huge party bash in secret that people don't know about on 10-11.
You want to sing the jingle?
The 10-11
Makes
jingle?
no difference where you go. They're the best place that I know. Hello, Nebraska. Hello, Nebraska.
Ooh, that's a high note.
10-11 loves you.
Oh man,
They do that. They all sing that, and they have a bonfire.
They do that instead of happy birthday.
I mean, it is
exactly
perhaps the most special of the 10-11 days. The last one with Ken Shimmick and 10-11's
That's true.
employ.
Is that today?
Well,
No,
it's
no.
not today, but
No.
it's Ken Shimmick's last 10-11 day.
Indeed.
Oh,
It's his last, so they'll
when is
fly-
his last day? Last day.
I think it's Halloween, isn't it?
Beginning
it
of
was.
November, end of October. So
Okay.
we got a while,
Got a
but
couple weeks.
maybe we ought to get him in on the tailgate for one of we had Suits bring him. He always said, I can't get up early in the morning. Well, he's got no excuse anymore.
Right.
That's true.
No excuse anymore. He can listen to the morning show, but they'll fly in Kyle D'Elia and we'll get a whole bunch of the old Jack Wang and Terry Tiber and
hey, Dick Janda.
Dick Janda will be there. Dick Janda. I haven't seen Dick in a while.
I haven't either.
Get Dick out there. That'd be great.
When it gets super late, they'll bust out the Ouija board and try and hook up with Mel Maines.
There we go. That'll get the party started.
Yeah,
for sure. All right. It is time for helmet stickers. Yay. We've got stickers to give out today after a bye week. And again, the helmet stickers is you can see on the screen right now. If you're watching, you can see our fantasy helmet sticker teams, which have been pretty much dead even this year. We did a much better job this year picking our fantasy teams than we did last year. Each fantasy team has 8 as of the end of last year helmet stickers. So we are dead even right now. Your fantasy stickers leaderboard has Emmett Johnson, Dylan Raiola, Ja'Cory Barney tied at the top with 5, Isaiah Hunter with 3, Quentin Ives with 3, and Archie with 2. And that's it for people who have multiple helmet stickers.
Yes.
So it's been weirdly predictable, other than maybe that Quentin Ives thing all came from one game. So we'll see if that changes at all this week. I'm really curious to see what you guys have this week. John, we'll let you go first again this week and do the honors to get things going. So
time for my number 2 draft pick to get that helmet sticker. Buddha Wright, 3.5 tackles for loss, 10 tackles overall, leads the team. I expect a clean sweep for number 0.
You're getting one from
me.
There you go. I
Easy.
wondered, I looked at that second pick overall and I was like, really, John? Really? And man, I don't think his game has been talked enough about this week. Not only did he have quantity of plays, not only was he solid tackler, within the first, 15 minutes of the game, he had a couple of spectacular. He had one play where he split 2 blockers and got right in between them, made a great play, had a really athletic play. I think on the first drive Michigan State had, maybe on the first few downs of the game. Man, he looked good. And if you can add him to really being a playmaker on that defense as well, that again kind of levels the defense up, I think.
Yeah, and how good do you feel for Javen Wright?
Yeah.
He's battled injuries. He's a legacy kid, so I'm sure he feels the weight of that. And here he is in his 7th year in the program. He's battled. He was here in the Scott Frost years, and he was here as Rule was building this thing back up. And he has, first off, he's been able to play this whole year, which for him has been difficult during his career. And then he has a monster game like that. And like I said, having that sort of a playmaker coming off the edge and just being involved from your linebacker core, that's a step forward this defense can take. We lamented the fact that there was a lack of havoc from Nebraska's defensive line. And, havoc typically comes from the D line, but it doesn't need to be the defensive line. And if you're getting it from a linebacker, that counts too. And Javen Wright was huge on Saturday against Michigan State.
Leads the team overall in tackles. And, you talk about him maybe not getting mentioned a lot, and he really doesn't, but 5.5 tackles for loss this year as well. I think up to this point, he'd been quietly solid. I don't think this was a quiet one, as we all gave him a helmet sticker in this one. And then the other thing I would point out, guys, about Javen Wright, he came here again in 2019. He was playing on special teams in 2019, pre-COVID here for Scott Frost.
He's an old man.
He's
been here long enough. He played with his dad.
Right. Yeah, he had played with his dad. Yes, they were in that back 7 in the 90s. But he's been solid. And one of the things, it makes this defense so interesting, guys, when you think about sort of the combination within this group of like some grizzled veterans, right? You talk about Javen Wright, you talk about Buford, you talk about Deshaun Singleton, these guys have been playing for their proverbial. This guy's been in college forever,
Yes.
guys. And then you got Williams Nwaneri, right, who feels like he's been playing football for about 6 months,
Right.
Total, and that's a little bit of an exaggeration, right? But
He's finding
a
his
lot of
legs.
those guys, the Keona Davises of the world, it is a really interesting combination of lots and lots and lots of game experience, and then kind of some young raw talent on this defense. Even Vincent Shavers, again, he's really young in the scheme of things.
Yep.
Riley Van Poppel,
McGahee,
really young in Nuneri, Desan McCullough. But yet that back end, we came into the season with this back end, and I know we were talking about Javen Wright, but this back end, I said something about this whole back end, the secondary, a few times. I said, look, I don't know that these are all conference players, but they have the amount of game experience that they've got and time in this program, and have been all of them for the most part, whether you're talking about Buford or you're talking about Singleton, right, or Sierra Wright, who hasn't been here, Malcolm Hartzog, they've all been solid players. I mean, it's kind of like the way we talk about Emmett Johnson.
Correct.
But I did not know that would translate into what it has this year for this secondary. And I think Javen Wright can kind of be thrown in that too, even though he's not technically in the secondary.
Sure.
So, all right. So that's clean sweep for Javen Wright. He doesn't take much to get yourself in the mix here at the top
That's
with
right.
that, if you can do a clean sweep. What you got next, Sean?
I'm going to stay on defense. Vincent Shavers.
Ooh.
2 tackles for loss, second leading tackler on the team with 9. And I thought he played excellent as well. Those linebackers were really, really active. And you can't plug up a running game without, having those linebackers there. And I thought, listen, Childs was going to get his. You just got to tip your hat to the young man for the runs that he did make. But in terms of the straight Michigan State running game, no chance at all. And you get a couple more tackles for loss. Nebraska was playing in Michigan State's backfield for a lot of this game.
Yeah.
And Vincent Shavers, I think, deserves one
That's
of my
a good one.
stickers.
And he is somebody I still, I keep saying put stock in him. He's been solid. Everything the coaches talk about with him has been, he's an exciting piece of that defense that's going to be there. That's on that young side of the defense, as opposed to the experienced side that Javen Wright kind of represents. Well, I'm on that same group, not Shavers, but I'm going with Williams Nwaneri after the game that he had. He came in, guys, when they got him, and he had a lot of kind of buzz around him, but it seemed like everyone was kind of trying to downplay it right after Nebraska got him. Well, he's kind of a project. He doesn't have a ton of experience. Right. He's got kind of a unique body for the position. Listen, he's not a specialty third down pass rush guy here at this point. And he had 1.5 sacks in this game. Had a total of 5 tackles, and he is definitely one where you can see, okay, he is going to get better as this year goes on. He continues to, and that's been a great find. And frankly, kudos to the coaches who have been working with him, bringing him in. And again, there are a lot of people who are kind of trying to downplay this thing, but from what I've seen from him, there's no reason to. I can't imagine a year from now, right? He stays in the program, and they get him where they want in terms of maybe bulking him up a little. I don't know if that's what they want to do or not, but just more experience because he hasn't played for a long time. He's an exciting player.
There's a chance that both he and I'll throw McCullough in there because they're both coming off the edge. They could have better second halves than they have first
100%.
Yep. And even though the schedule theoretically gets tougher in the second half than it was in the first half. But yeah, I was with a lot of folks. I thought Nwaneri was going to be more of a project player this year. And yet at the beginning of the season, when we saw his name at the top of the depth chart, we were like, oh, okay, well, this is interesting.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can get clouded a little bit because, he didn't really play at Missouri. And you thought, well, maybe, he wasn't all that, the coaches thought that he was, talking about Missouri's coaches. But yeah, the raw talent.
Vibe everyone seemed to give.
Right.
I had think a guy with those kind of recruiting accolades would get all kinds of hype. I feel like he was downplayed from the minute he got here.
He was. He really was. The excitement level for a 5-star. Maybe Nebraska fans have now gotten used to 5 stars, because of Dylan.
Boring to us.
It's very boring. But you just, and then you saw him and you're like, wow, is he going to be able to hold up? I mean, look at he looks like he should be, lined up
in
on
a dunk contest is what he looks like.
That,
he should be
or he should be lined up in the slot and playing, one of those hybrid tight end roles, right? Because he doesn't. But yeah, his explosiveness off the edge. I mean, that's what John Butler was talking about in the offseason when he said, hey, we're going to be quick, we're going to be fast, we're going to get after the quarterback. We actually saw that this week. Yeah. Now, is that always going to work against certain teams? Probably not. But listen, when you have the ability to disrupt, and again, you don't have to get home all the time to make an impact. All you have to do is get in the backfield and disrupt something. And that's what a guy like Nwaneri can give you. And yeah, I'm with you. I think he was really, really good on Saturday. And I'm excited to see what he can do here these last 7-8 games, depending on how many there are left.
You don't feel like that was an aberration for him. Also, a hat tip to Jamar Mosey on the coaching staff. I mean, remember, Mosey was his high school coach, and I'm sure that connection was important.
Yeah,
and
he's been huge, I'm sure, in this whole thing.
You remember Matt Rule this week talking. There was one thing I emphasized to Nwaneri, motor, and you wonder if it was just unlocking the level of effort that he needed to play with to be a force at the college level right now, because I'm sure he was a guy where physically he just walked on the high school field and whoever the left tackle was started cowering and wetting himself. Well, this is college. This is a little different ball game. And sometimes the effort that you need to succeed is such a big jump that it overwhelms you. You go, well, geez, my physical gifts worked in high school. They don't work in college. Clearly, I just don't have it. And maybe that's why his motor slowed down a little bit last year at Missouri. I'm playing nickel psychologist here. But at any rate, Nebraska has unlocked his top effort, and it showed.
Also, Missouri's just a weird place.
Indeed. Indeed.
Take the worst out, take the best out of anyone. They got like an interstate in front of their stadium. Who does that? You got to cross a state highway to get into the door of the stadium. What are they doing there?
Yes. So I'm gonna flip it over to offense. Ja'Cory Barney Jr. I mean, just such a spark plug for this team. So athletic, so exciting. Every time the ball is in his hands, something good's about to happen. And if anything, it's almost like they've been careful with how they've used him. I mean, just 4 targets. He had 4 returns. Man, with him, especially in the second half of the season, especially where you don't have a second running back, line him up in the backfield. Get him run adjacent plays, jet sweeps, screen passes.
It worked with Wan'Dale Robinson.
That is precisely the comparison I had in mind. And hey, you don't have to do it as much with Ja'Cory as you did with Wan'Dale, but at least do it some. Because they targeted him 4 times in the pass game. He returned 4 kicks. That's 8 touches. That's far too few. I don't care how many plays you had or didn't have against Michigan State. Get the ball in his hands. He's your best guy with the ball in his hands.
I second that.
You got Ja'Cory also?
I have Ja'Cory also as my third one because, I mean, he was a bad block away from 160 yards in punt returns.
Yeah.
On Saturday and a house call.
That's Johnny Rogers stuff.
And we haven't. I mean, we're halfway through this show now, and we haven't talked about that play yet. But the wheel route that they ran there late in the third quarter on 3rd and 10, we may look back on that play when all is said and done this season as the moment that saved the season.
Yep.
Because at that point, Nebraska was trending in an awful direction, and it didn't look like there was any sign of hope. And then they complete it. You credit Dylan; he made a great throw into that wind.
Yeah,
but he is the guy that has elevated now to the point. We talked about this at the very beginning of the season. That Dylan and Emmett are like 1A, 1B in terms of most indispensable, based on either how well they have played or the players that would replace them.
Yeah.
Ja'Cory Barney is now 1C because I don't know what this offense looks like without him. He can do so much. He is so electric. He just has a knack for making big plays. And it hasn't happened yet, but it is going to happen. He is going to break a punt return this season. And when it happens, it's going to blow the lid off the place. So, yeah, Ja'Cory Barney, he may end up getting helmet stickers from me the rest of the season.
He takes the lead.
He is so vital to and so electric. And my partner Josh Peterson said earlier this week, this could be the first real offseason NIL battle that Nebraska has to play because there's a lot of people that are going to see him and are being like, we need a guy like that. And
one of them wears orange and green, I bet.
Yeah. And that's his home. So, not to put the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
Ja'Cory Barney is as important to this team as any other player is. And I thought, he was huge on Saturday.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that, but I went with someone different on offense, and I went with Emmett Johnson. And it doesn't matter.
It's hard to argue with 3 touchdowns.
It's just it's tough because how many I feel a little guilty because how many times do I talk about Emmett Johnson either on this show when I'm with you guys, John, some of the other stuff I do, and it's like I always kind of guard myself about overstating how good he is. Yet, no matter what metric you look at, he continues to be. I am even doing it now. I keep saying very, very, just very good. It's like he came through. I think I've had some doubts about him, but there were 2 different significant plays that he made in that game where that was not what okay running backs do, right? No. He made huge plays, huge touchdowns, big gains, and I've got to give it to him. I've unintentionally, I think, been a bit of a doubter for him, but he continues to come through. And to the extent you believe, we're going to get into this in the morning drive here in just a second, to the extent you believe Nebraska's running game is not where it should be, I mean, I don't know how you can make an argument that it's about him at this point. You really can't. And he was solid again. And again, he does it without, whether this is a critique or not, he does it without those huge 60, 70-yard runs, right, that you're going to see from Justice Haynes from Michigan. He's a leading rusher in the Big Ten. I think he has a rush over 50 yards in every game that he's been in. So, in any case, so credit to Emmett, continues to just be solid out there. And boy, they need him so much. They need him so much to be like that, and they will again this week.
Yeah, you take out the long touchdown run, 12 carries, 60 yards. It's 5 of
still pretty good.
That's still good.
You'll sure take it.
Still pretty good.
Okay, I'm going to go offense with my last one. Isaiah Hunter was kind of the hot hand in that fourth quarter, and as the game went on, 4 catches, 93 yards, and a touchdown, and just an important downfield threat for this team, and has been very consistent at that wide receiver spot. And if Nebraska is going to drop back more often than they run it, you need a target that you trust down the field, and especially where Isaiah is a little bigger bodied than Ja'Cory Barney. He can be that sort of guy. And of course, Isaiah had the big 59-yard touchdown catch. So for all of that, Isaiah Hunter gets my last one.
All right, we got to take a break so we can get to our morning drive and get to all of them. So we will do just that right now. You're listening to the Friday Husker Tailgate. Thanks for joining us. Getting ready for Nebraska and Maryland. Kevin Suits will be along here in about 20 minutes. So stick around. More coming up, both on the radio and KLIN, KLIN.com, and YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you want to watch. We are there. You are listening to the Friday Husker Tailgate on KLIN.
When you're thinking Huskers,
throws up a wall. Blocking better than cholesterol tonight.
Think 1499.3 KLIN. Here's today's Husker Max Practice Report. You're going for game day. It's a special Friday Husker Tailgate edition of the Morning Drive, presented by Stonebridge Insurance and Wealth Management on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Time to count it out. This.
It's coaching. It's coaching and culture.
Yep.
It really is. Nebraska's had players, they've had athletes that can execute the necessary things on special teams. But I don't think the emphasis was where it needed to be, prior to Matt Rule's arrival. I thought there was lip service given to it, which is shocking considering where that previous coach and the background he came from. But it just goes to show you have to treat this like the third phase of football or like an equal phase to offense and defense if you're going to make it great. And Mike Eckler, we've heard all about his idiosyncrasies. We've heard all about his methods of teaching and his attention to detail and how passionate he is about all of this. And I think there was some audio earlier this week from Matt Rule just talking about that we all see the emotional side of it, but it's the teaching. It's the fact that, there are coaches on the staff asking questions about how things are working. It's coaching and it's culture. And Mike Eckler, that hire is, it's the move of the offseason without question, because, and I had my doubts that Nebraska could go from
that quickly
from a tire fire to
agreed
an asset, a benefit.
Yeah.
I thought the best they would probably do is, hey, they're not going to suck. We're not going to recognize it. We're going to say, oh, they didn't lose us a game.
Right.
This unit is now good enough to win you games. It's back to the way it used to be for years and years and years.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's coaching and it's culture.
You say it was the move of the offseason. Is the argument there that it's the best move Matt Rule has made as the head coach? I mean, I'm not so sure it isn't, because like you said, it had been terrible for a decade. And it all comes down to emphasizing it, being passionate about it, being detail-oriented about it. And yeah, I underestimated the impact Eckler could have in a short period. I mean, some of it is bringing in good specialists. Kyle Cunanan has been really good this year. Archie Wilson had one bad game. I'm willing to chalk it up to
it was windy.
Yeah,
it was bad. It was a bad condition.
Precisely. I expect him to make adjustments moving forward. The return game is dangerous right now. The return game's flat out dangerous. And they've even gotten kickoffs ironed out. They went from having John Hull and Alvano kicking the ball out of bounds to where John Hull kicked off most of the game, and he was good. So all of that being said, Mike Eckler has advanced the special teams unit so far, and whatever they're paying him, double it, because he's worth every nickel.
And the scheme, all of that, everything you said, correct. But the other thing is, you alluded to this too. Get guys. You got to recruit. You got to think about it with recruiting too, right? They had part of the problem with returns over the last few years. They didn't have a guy on the roster who could do it.
Right.
The bottom line. I mean, remember when they put Billy Kemp back there because he was the one guy they had who could just catch it?
Catch the ball. Yeah. I mean,
they didn't have somebody who could snap it.
Yeah.
They haven't recruited well at kicker.
Right.
I mean,
you still have to go. I mean, I mentioned that they've had the players, but you're right. I mean, in certain areas, like return game, like the kickers, you still have to go out and recruit guys. How many years
did we go into every game wondering if they had a kicker who could make a field goal?
Oh yeah, at least through the whole Riley era.
Riley, Scott Frost era. I mean, they brought in They had a safety from Air Force who transferred in. Who was the kicker.
McCallum. It was just crazy. Yeah, it's emphasis.
Yep. Moving on.
Which is Mike Eckler.
Number 4.
Nebraska's running game is sometimes discussed as something that isn't a strength of the team or that needs more depth. Yet Emmett Johnson has just had another very good game last week. He's third in the Big Ten in rushing. I know, guys, we've hit on this a little bit, so we don't have to go real deep into it. So I guess the question is there an issue there or not? And if so, what is the issue exactly?
The issue is trust.
Bang.
Honestly, that's what it is. It's do you trust the run game when you need it? And because Emmett he's averaging 6 yards a carry. At least he did last week. I think for the season it's 5 or something. That's good. That's what you can expect from him. We'd mentioned earlier the analytics stat line yards. Nebraska's got one of the better line yards teams in the country. They're in the 90th percentile, which means they're getting those 3 and 4 yard gains at a regular enough clip.
Yeah.
And then it's up to Emmett to kind of fill in the gaps from there. It's a trust issue right now. And I know some of it is we're trying to bank carries. We're trying to wait, and not overuse him. But he hasn't had a 20-yard or 20-carry game since the opener against Cincinnati. And you do have another idle week coming up. You're going on the road for the first time. You'll be on the road for the next 2 weeks. Usually on the road, you better be decent at the run game. I expect to see Emmett's workload go up a little bit.
Yeah. 5-6 a carry. And it is a trust factor with this run game. I do think there are it's not the fastball of this offense. I mean, this offense is still best with Dylan Raiola dropping back and throwing the football. But it is a trust factor. It is a question of how much Emmett Johnson has developed, which I think he has. I mean, you think about his ability to break tackles, his ability to stretch what were 3 and 4 yard runs to 5 and 6. Like we said, he's not a home run hitter. He's not going to take it 70 yards, but he's doing a much better job of extending runs, getting farther, and making good cuts. I mean, his vision has improved from last year to this year.
Yep, for sure. I've said everything that I think, but already during the show, he's been really good. I gave him that helmet sticker. It was a bit of a mea culpa for always trying to limit myself. Stay healthy. That's it.
Yep.
Stay healthy and figure out get your Corey Barney some rushes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that would be the other thing I would say. All right. And frankly, to be honest, Dylan Raiola a little bit. Make it at least a thought in the running game.
Nudge him a little. I mean, I know
I'm okay with it.
Now we're getting risky.
They ran a quarterback draw with him against Michigan State, and it was a great call in that game. He had a 40-yard run against Ohio State last year, and it's got to be a thought at least. I think. Moving on.
Number 3.
While most everyone agrees the last 2 weeks, the sacks and quarterback pressures Nebraska has allowed have been the biggest hindrance of the offense. There seem to be several reasons for the problem that have been proffered, depending who you talk to. Was it the line? Was it the wind? Was it that Dylan Raiola didn't have good pocket presence or didn't get rid of it? John, what do you think is actually happening here?
There is blame to be shared because it can't all be on the offensive line. That said, there were times where it seemed like Dylan had no prayer early on. And we've talked about the tackle issues. This was the first game where we had 2 brand new starting tackles. And one of the knocks against Elijah Pritchett was, at Alabama, he could be a swinging gate at times. And he literally had 2 plays in a row on that disastrous second quarter drive where they just flat blew the assignment or got blown out there. And I don't want to put it all on one guy, but I think the offensive line is still the majority of the issue. But yeah, Dylan's got to be better about getting that ball out. He's got to be better at getting to his reads quicker. Receivers do have to get open better. And yes, there's a little culpability here on Dana. I think you've got to realize in the moment, we're not protecting him very well. So we need plays that are going to get the ball out quicker and is going to make the game easier, or maybe we need to run it a little bit to take some of the heat off. So the blame can be spread out, but I do think there is an issue up on the line of scrimmage that has to be addressed.
Yeah, I would say while there are contributing factors, play calling, Dylan holding on to the ball, not enough of a run threat, whatever, the primary responsibility is the offensive line. And look, Nebraska invested there. They went out and got Pritchett from the transfer portal. They got Rocco Spindler, who has plugged in well, but it's just the offensive line needs to play better. I will say one other mitigating factor, and I've mentioned this, losing both Mac Markway and Janiron Bonner to injury.
Yep, you're right.
You know, those two guys, one of those guys would be in there helping out, you know, trying to mitigate the struggles that you're having at offensive tackle right now. So that's a factor too. But the primary responsibility is on the offensive line.
You guys said it all. I mean, that's the primary issue. That said, there are ways that it could be mitigated a whole lot more between what Dylan does, the play calling, having a running game. And those are the things that you have to focus on right now, I think. Moving on. We've kind of dug more into the weather forecast for College Park. We started out saying, maybe a little bit of a chance of rain. We saw Brad Anderson give his College Park forecast, and he made it look a little more significant. John, I know you looked at what the National Weather Service says. It looks like there's at least a 50% chance there's going to be some rain falling during the course of this game.
It looks like it's about 30% chance in the morning with 50% chance for pretty much the entire game. So that means you're going to see some kind of inclement weather. I like the fact that, Nebraska's been looking ahead and, has been preparing for this. They've already prepared with the wet balls. Rule has said we'd rather play in rain than play in wind. So we'll see how it goes. But, it just would be just another challenge. Remember, both teams have to deal with it. Yeah. So, as long as you're prepared for it and you're not surprised by anything, I would like to say it's not going to be much of a factor, but we will see. Forecast can certainly change, but it certainly is worth watching. It's a game I already thought might threaten the under, which is right now at 47.5. Mm-hmm. This might do a little bit more. We might need a Brett Musburger. You are looking live.
Yeah, exactly. About an hour before.
Yeah, about an hour before, just to verify what we're seeing.
Yeah,
absolutely. And so yes, it will affect both teams, but I think it'll hurt Maryland more than it hurts Nebraska. You're talking about a freshman quarterback who's not had to deal with much of anything so far. And so you feel like it'll hurt him more than it hurts Dylan Raiola, who's had a year plus of working as a starting quarterback and dealing with everything that comes with it. So I think Nebraska's better prepared than Maryland.
Plus, Dylan Raiola grew up most of his life in Arizona playing football. Obviously, a lot of experience with rain. So that should be fine.
Number one.
Once again, guys, last weekend we saw a round of games that significantly changed the way the rest of this season's schedule looks, particularly the UCLA-Penn State game. Curious, guys, what was the biggest impact of the result for you on Saturday as it pertains to the rest of Nebraska's schedule? Penn State game looks more winnable, UCLA game looks more losable, or something else?
Well, I think it was a good reminder that when you have a quarterback like Nico Iamaleava, you always have a chance. And, when they made the move to Jerry Neuheisel, Rick Neuheisel's son, as the offensive coordinator, I think it was a perfect storm for Penn State. The long travel that James Franklin also made an issue of, the fact that Penn State was coming off of a loss, and the fact that UCLA kind of changed their approach a little bit, and Iamaleava had a really good game. That game was always going to be a little tricky for me. This week will be an interesting tell because UCLA is playing Michigan State. So we're going to get a chance to see UCLA against a team that Nebraska just played, and that might give us a better feel for what UCLA can be in the second half. I've been saying it now for 2 weeks. Penn State's season is circling the drain. Yep. And when I say that, I don't mean they're going to have a losing record, but when you consider they were the front runner, they were the favorite to win the national title out of the Big Ten. They were the Big Ten's best hope. Everything was building towards this season, and now Penn State, with a couple of really tough games still left on their schedule, is one loss away from being out of the playoff, likely entirely.
Yep.
And that could really make things interesting in 4 or 5 weeks when Nebraska goes to Happy Valley, we could be seeing a very distraught football team by the time that game comes around.
Yeah, I think that result is a greater positive for Nebraska than negative. That UCLA effort just kind of felt to me, John said perfect storm, like that was kind of their last stand. Hey, we've got a new coach calling our plays. We've got a big opponent coming in. They're kind of down. I don't expect that higher level of play to sustain. But, John's right. If they're out of the playoff race, what's Penn State playing for? That could be a pretty downtrodden Beaver Stadium that Nebraska walks into, even more so than usual with that erector set. So I take more positive from that than negative. I don't think UCLA can sustain that level of play for the next month until Nebraska gets there.
I'll put it this way, maybe with the exception of the Northwestern game in Lincoln, every single game going forward, Nebraska could very realistically win or lose.
Life in the Big Ten.
That's it. And we're not talking a 10% chance.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
30 either way, at least.
7:55, that's it for your morning drive, brought to you by Stonebridge Insurance and Wealth Management. More tailgate coming up on KLIN.
With no subscription required. Over the air, online, and through the app. Lincoln's Husker Radio is 1499.3 KLIN. KLI.
Ariola takes a snap, fade route, back run to the end zone. Touchdown, Huskers! Isaiah Hunter for the Husker touchdown.
Who do you think you're fooling? Nobody's thinking about their job the day before a Husker game.
Pedals the throw, blitz picked up. Harris went out deep right sideline. 50-50 ball. It's picked off. The black shirts with the dagger. Malcolm Hartzog with a giant pick. Sails the night for the Big Red. Drifts back to throw, dumps it to an underneath crosser. Goody made the catch, got popped. Ball's loose, but they say incomplete.
This is the Friday Husker Tailgate with Jack Mitchell, Nate Rohr, John Bishop, and Kevin Suits on Lincoln's Husker Radio. 493 KLIN. Do you know your foe? We'll introduce you, but we can't guarantee you'll get along. It's the Friday Husker Tailgate Opposition Disposition on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
It's the third hour of the Friday Husker Tailgate on 1499.3 KLIN.
He almost hit the same decibel level as Wrigley Field last night.
There it is.
Yes.
Nate Rohr getting us ready for the third hour. Welcome to the Friday Husker Tailgate, Nebraska, Maryland. Tomorrow, the full crew is assembled. John Bishop here, still on my left. Nate Rohr on my right. Now Kevin Suits, 1011 Sports Director, joins us as well. Kevin, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome
Thanks,
to
Nate. We're not going to hear it with the road game this week, so happy to
go to Kansas City on
right.
Monday
Sunday
night.
Sunday
night.
Lions Chiefs on Sunday night.
Ooh, they went from Monday night football to Sunday night.
Monday night on the road to Sunday night. Yep.
Wow. Prime time.
There you go.
Now, let's hope Chris Jones shows up.
Indeed. Yeah. He's
Tries.
awake and actually tries to make the tackle.
Yeah, Kevin, by the way, I'm excited to have you here because I know we're on the eve of a very special day at your workplace. It's 10/11 day tomorrow. I assume you guys have some kind of a secret lair somewhere that you all gather in every year on 10/11 day and have a bonfire and all the alums come
You would
back
think if there was ever a day for a television station to put the closed sign out in front, it would be 10/11 on 10/11.
Yes.
Got a football game to cover, though.
Big day. Too bad. You'll have to celebrate it on the 12th or something like that.
That doesn't quite work like that. 10/12.
Make sure you check out the podcast. Jack and I sang the jingle a while ago.
Yeah, the Hello Nebraska jingle.
Yeah,
yes.
it was before your time, but it was.
I'm familiar with all that. Jack is the one who has exposed me into the YouTube rabbit holes of all the former 10/11.
That's right. I showed Kevin the Lincoln Is It song.
Yes.
A great place to work or play for a lifetime or just for one day. Da-da-da-da-da. Lincoln Is It. Yeah.
So
I can
great.
do all of them. I can tell you.
Because I didn't know about that Lincoln Is It jingle until you showed me it this past summer. As you just sang it and kind of riffed through it, Jack, like I can now picture the different shots that they have from it.
The brand new lead center.
The lady with the very poofy pink dress, just kind of like looking at it in the mirror, and then the shot of the state capitol.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Which is on a hazy day. Like, can we shoot that on a day where it's sunshine?
I can tell you most of the Sunshine Award winners from 1986, all of those that Ken gave out. I mean, listen, who can forget Can Caravan in Milford in 1988? There's
Can Caravan still going strong. And by the way,
that's awesome.
When you went down the whole 10/11 nostalgia, that day I went to Ken Shimmick's office and I said, Ken, here we go. Like, I've got it. you got to tell me about some of this stuff. And he like lit up. And you could tell like his heart was swelling, because it took him back in time. And so I think Ken and I spent maybe 30 to 45 minutes that day watching those old promos that are on YouTube. And there's like some YouTube channel that has like 10, 11, like back in time, whatever.
Oh, yeah, that's probably where I found it.
Oh, my goodness. And so it was one of those. A lot of people do those on their couch late at night. We did it in the middle of a work shift. Thankfully, no bosses walked by and told us get back to work.
Very good.
See, you guys are sitting on a gold mine. You need to go through the archives and just slap everything you have up on a YouTube channel.
That's true.
Boom.
We throw it on TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
But then
For the
again,
kids.
TikTok is consumed by the kids. And they'll be like, who are these?
No, that's actually another way. If you made just like a retro thing with the old that would be.
Yeah, but if there was ever a place where 4x3 is acceptable, it's TikTok.
True. That's true. Right. That's where it all is. All right. Well, good to have you with us, Kevin. We're going to get into our roundtable. But first, we're going to take a look at not only Maryland and Nebraska, by the way. John and I like to go back and look at the history. They've still only played Maryland 3 times. Isn't that crazy?
That's it.
They played 3 times, all in the new Big Ten. That's it. That's it.
Thankfully, one time it was on the road, and I was there. And it was enough for me to rank Maryland as the 18th best or also last on the Big Ten stadiums.
Yeah, Nebraska, that was a funny game. It was a get-right game in 2019 when it didn't seem like anything was going well, and Nebraska exploded at the beginning of that game. They win that one 54-7 after, it felt like things were just going sideways in the second year for Scott Frost, but they won that. Of course, they played them in Lincoln in 2016. Maybe you don't remember that one, but they did win. That's a tough – talk about Big Ten games that are hard to remember. Nebraska beat Maryland. Nebraska ranked 19th in that game in 2016, beat them 28-7. One I bet we do all remember was 2023.
Don't throw the ball.
And a play call on fourth down that was much, much discussed over the coming days and weeks. But here we are again with the fourth matchup for Maryland. So we don't have a lot of, encyclopedic history to go back on on Maryland. John, so you wanted a different direction today. Tell us what you did.
Well, Dave Feit, a friend of the program and one of the writers over at Husker Max, recognized that tomorrow is the 1400th game in Nebraska football history.
Wow.
So I thought 1400th game
day.
On 10-11 day.
Amazing.
Wow. And of course, if you know your history, this radio station begat 10-11.
Yeah.
Yes.
We used to all be
I always
one big
say to
happy
Kevin when I
family.
see him around town, who's your daddy?
Yeah, who's your
You know?
daddy? It's us.
Who's your daddy?
It's us. It's KOLN radio. So I thought we'd go back into the archives for a little history of Husker football on 10-11, and the oldest highlight or the oldest game, full game that I have is from 1959, one of the most famous upsets in Nebraska history.
15 seconds, 14 seconds. The Huskers get up and walk back to the huddle. 10 seconds, 9 seconds. Let's let the crowd count it out. Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest upset in the Big 8 Conference. Nebraska 25, Oklahoma 21.
The voice of Bob Zenner, who was the sports director here and the sports director at 10-11. So he did both jobs and called the games until he unfortunately passed away of cancer in the 60s. But he got to be there.
1959.
He got to be there for that game and, of course, the early part of the Devaney years.
Yes, absolutely. All right, what else we got?
Let's fast forward a little bit to another former KLIN sports director. Go back to 1978. Another person who did both duties, did radio and television, the great Don Gill from the 78 Oklahoma game.
Here's Thorley pitching to Hip. Hip at the 10. He's to the 5. Isaiah Hip. Touchdown! Isaiah Hip scores on the Southerners, and for the first time, Nebraska takes the lead.
And I used to have that entire game as well here. It was buried here in our archives somewhere.
Don Gill, I remember now, a little bit later than that. I was 1 year old and not living in Lincoln at the time, but a few years later we moved here. And of course, when we first moved here in the mid 80s, a couple of games were on TV, not many. So I listened on the radio. The first chance I got to see them was on the show that Don Gill hosted.
Cornhusker football.
Cornhusker football on NET at the time. And I think it was on Tuesday nights.
7 o'clock.
And my dad and I would sit down, and it was my first chance to see those highlights of what had happened. I was probably too young to stay up if they were on the news.
Yeah, and the Tom Osborne show used to be Sunday nights late. So, for a lot of people,
those
across
first
the
I
state,
saw most of 86, 87, 88, those seasons. That's where I saw him, was with Don Gill on that show. And they would have a coach on too, usually.
Well, it was John Melton for most of those years, and then they bring on a couple of players, and it was always a good show because, especially if there was a questionable call, John Melton would not be afraid to call out the referees.
So good. I need to get some full versions.
Really,
of
really
that
good
show.
stuff. And let's fast forward to 1995. Of course, KLIN spent 10 years away, but we came back in 93 as the affiliate, and 2 years later, Kent Pavelka got to call this.
Nobody with him in the backfield. Takes the snap. He's in the end zone. He throws long down the near sideline. It's a jump ball, and it's intercepted. Intercepted by Nebraska. The Huskers have the ball. The Huskers have the football. Nebraska has the football. Kareem Moss, and the national championship is Nebraska's.
Bring that trophy back to Lincoln.
Yes, sir.
Yep, he had it all there. And we would be remiss if we didn't remember our good friend Greg Sharp. Everyone talks about, the Hail Mary call. I know it's up on the side. This is my favorite Greg Sharp call from the 2009 Big 12 championship game.
From the 24-yard line, McCoy back in the pocket. Holding, now being rushed. Sue gets him and throws him down. That is his third sack of the game for Ndamukong Suh, the best player in college football.
Yeah, I'm with you there too. And Sue deserved those flowers, and of course didn't get them because he was a defensive player. But yeah, that was you want to talk about a guy nailing a moment. There you go.
Yeah.
So
the way Greg punched that too, it's like he had been holding that in.
Oh, he'd been waiting.
weeks.
He'd been waiting.
And he waited for the perfect moment to do it. That was the ragdoll Colt McCoy game. And Sue just owned him. And so it's not like he did it after sack 1 or 2 in that championship game. He waited to the end and just nailed the call.
Yep.
There you go. So what? Now 32 strate years on KLIN that it's been
correct. And I found out something earlier this week. Bill King, maybe some of you might know who that is, but he was the longtime voice of the Oakland Raiders. You think about if you look back at some of the old Super Bowl highlights, you hear his voice, very familiar voice. He also was here at KLIN. He did the Huskers and the Lincoln Chiefs for a couple of years before he went out to the West Coast and became the voice of the Raiders, the A's, and the Warriors.
Yeah, he did the Warriors' first championship run in the 70s, and then he did the Raiders 70s, 80s, into the 90s. He did the A's like 80s, 90s, into the 2000s.
Yeah, it was his last team.
And did the A's until he passed away. So when you would watch Oakland A's games and you would see Holy Toledo light up in center field, that was his catchphrase.
Yep.
It was kind of fun. He was calling an A's Angels game that I happened to listen to. And of course, at that time, it was like 2005. So Darren Erstad was on the Angels and Dan Johnson was with the A's. And so, of course, they're former Huskers, and his time in Lincoln came up. He mentioned, hey, I was in Lincoln in the 50s. They're both Huskers. I was in Lincoln in the 50s before Devaney came.
Yeah.
So that's cool. You mentioned that 93 season when it started too. I turned 16 in 1993. And after that season was over, I purchased, they put it on sale everywhere, but a cassette tape of the highlights the entire season. I know they did that in other years, but it was the first time I had ever seen anything like that. And I bought it right away. And the entire offseason between 1993 and 1994, the way I got myself ready for that season and fired up was I would listen to that cassette tape. And so you go through those 93 games, especially, I remember all of the calls during those games that Kent and Gary did. And yeah, that's what a part of growing up. And so, yeah, very proud to be here on KLIN and to still be the home of Husker football. So thank you for those, John. Very cool.
I wish we still had the old Jeep and the inflatable football that we used to put up every week. That has a whole different story, but
there you go. All right. So let's talk a little bit about Maryland. Since Nebraska doesn't play them often, we don't get to talk about them all that much. The Terrapins, huh? The Terrapins. Do we ever think about that? Do we ever be like, what's the deal with the Terrapins?
Why do you name yourself after a turtle?
Well, it's because in 1932, Dr. H. Curly Bird, which is the most 1932 coach name you could ever come up with, recommended the Diamondback Terrapin to become the mascot. Before the suggestion, they were known as the Old Liners. The Old Liners was Maryland's name before that.
Okay,
but,
so Turtles is an upgrade.
Yes. But again, the school newspaper in 1932 posted about searching for a new mascot. And so he had made the suggestion. And that evidently, unlike where Michigan, where they've got no Wolverines in that state whatsoever, the Diamondback Terrapin is actually the state reptile of Maryland. And he was from Chrisfield, Maryland. It was famous, evidently. Like, this is a Maryland thing. These terrapins are nobody call. I mean, I call it a turtle, but terrapins. So, in 1933, the student class gave a bronze statue of the school's new mascot. There, they raised a whole bunch of money for this thing as well. Ended up getting the base. They had a former quarterback who was a president of a manufacturer company who produced it for the school, and Testudo was born on June 2nd, 1933, and had that there. The reason for the name Testudo is actually unclear. Testudinides, which is the scientific classification for turtles, is one of the leading theories for the name. Another possibility is testudo, which is a part of the name of a species of the turtle native to Africa, the Testudo gigantica. But the final theory is that it comes from the Latin word for protective shelter, which is used to protect Roman soldiers' heads, much like that of a shell. So there you go. Now that the testudo, the turtle, the statue itself that they put up in the 30s, obviously there's a lot of chicanery going around with mascots and statues in the 30s. It was painted. Its pedestal was defaced. Johns Hopkins students stole the turtle in 1947. A bunch of Maryland students got to Baltimore to go fight those John Hopkins jerks and go get it back from them. They said, we're going to take you on in lacrosse over the years, and we'll settle it this way. With that, University of Virginia fraternity one time stole it as well. And so they finally filled it with 700 pounds of cement and attached it to a new perch outside of the stadium. It was moved in 1965, and then they rededicated and restored it in 1983 and put another one outside of the football complex in 1992. The mascot is, it's a friendly looking anthropomorphic turtle, lovable, cuddly, those sorts of things. But people forget back in 2014, and I'll have to show you guys the video on this. They experimented with a more Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle looking situation. It did not go over very well. They did a pump up video with it, and I'm sure only John can see it right now. But they basically kind of went with, like I said, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle look for the Maryland turtle. It did not go over particularly well, not lovable enough. It had fangs and teeth and all sorts of things, and they've not really gone back to using any version of that since. And so that's the story of the Maryland Terrapin. It looks like a dinosaur.
Did they do that? It looks like they did that to introduce themselves to the Big Ten.
Yeah,
that's the first year they were in the conference,
it was
right?
their intro, and that was also, they were the big Under Armour school, and look, he's got a little Under Armour
logo, of course,
right there. I mean, Maryland was what kind of made me learn what Under Armour was. Remember Ralph Friedgen's Maryland wearing the Under Armour stuff?
Well, isn't the guy behind Under Armour?
He's a Maryland
guy, so he's the the Phil Knight of Maryland.
Right. And who was the tight end that Maryland had that played for the 49ers? Really good tight end, played for the.
He was the guy that quit, right?
Yeah. Mike Singletary got mad at.
Mike Singletary cannot win with
him. His name right now.
Oh.
Right. But he was kind of the poster boy for Under Armour when they first came out, and they put him in all the commercials, and I cannot think of his name right now, but it'll come to me, or somebody will text it to me.
You used the word friendly, and that is the perfect example or the perfect word for their mascot. Do they have a name for their mascot, the turtle?
It's Testudo. Yes. Both the statue and the mascot. Yes, it's known as Testudo.
Like, I get it for the stat, but there's Goldie the Gopher, there's Sparty, there's fun words, Testudo.
Right. It doesn't roll off the tongue.
No. Exactly, and plus, it is a very, it's a nice guy.
Yes.
Vernon Davis.
Yes.
That's a tight end.
The other thing about Maryland, too, is people that aren't familiar with that football program, when you watch a game there, you can be very confused because their colors are red and white, correct?
Yeah.
There's so much yellow involved and a hint of a light blue, and it all derives from the Maryland state flag.
Yes. Right.
They incorporate that into not only their uniforms, but some of the stuff around the stadium. So, again, if you don't know a little bit of context and background with Maryland athletics, you can be kind of confused about what's going on here.
Yes.
And even that big giant flag that they put out, well, they put it in one of the end zones, and sometimes they put it there, and it's like Nebraska has that Go Big Red flag that they open up at the beginning of the game. No, they leave it open the entire game because it covers about 2,000 seats, which are unfilled.
Yes.
And it's behind one of the goalposts.
Yeah. What do we think how many Nebraska fans will be there? When you were there the last time, was a big Nebraska contingent. The weather was terrible.
The weather sucked, and it was kind of a meh. There were some people that had kind of gone a little bit lukewarm on Nebraska football at that point in time. So it's not like, got to go see them. This team's got something cooking.
We're coming off some.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot, because there's a lot of people on the East Coast.
Oh,
and
yeah.
this is like this is their one chance. And Penn State's not easy to get to.
Yeah.
And this was probably a cheaper ticket. So I wouldn't be
And-
surprised if we had a couple thousand, a few thousand fans.
I think that's probably a pretty good number. It's not going to exceed like 4,000. There's not going to be a stadium takeover, but there are, in addition to the people on the East Coast that follow Nebraska football, there's also just Nebraska football fans nationwide that want to check off all the venues that Nebraska plays at. And this is one that is not recurring. In fact, Nebraska's only played there one other time. Yeah. So if you're looking to complete the ring of 18,
card. Yeah,
this would be, who knows when they're going back. So go.
Plus, you can make a weekend of it. You can go over to DC.
There you go.
I believe the Commanders are home this weekend too.
The Ravens are home this week against the Rams. So
go not do anything because of the federal government shutdown. All right. In any case, notable alums: Larry David, a Maryland alum.
Really?
Jim Henson, creator of the Muppets.
There's
the Swedish Chef.
And, yes. Derby, derby, dur. Remember the name? Those of you who are into politics, remember the name Carly Fiorina? Ran for president in 2016 against Donald Trump and a huge group of Republicans. Yeah, you might not remember. For a while there, she was kind of like,
I don't remember that.
Gayle King. We watch Gayle King on the morning show on CBS quite often here in the studios. Connie Chung. Wow, shout out media. Carl Bernstein.
Yes.
Scott Van Pelt. Tim Kirkjian. Bonnie Bernstein. Wow, we got a lot of sports and news media.
Yes, we do.
Here.
You didn't say Kirkjian right. You got
Tim Kirkjian.
Just the way he signs off on his stories.
All-time good guy Dan Snyder is a
proud. Maryland is proud of their native son, Dan Snyder.
And then my last one on the list, and I think John was in the same boat as me, New Year's Eve, like a decade or more ago, Travis Pastrana. Remember when they used to do the stunts on New Year's Eve?
Oh, that was such a great 2-year thing.
He was on one of them where he drove a car. I don't remember, was in
jumped
Vegas.
The car between buildings or something.
Yeah, something like that. Travis Pastrana did it. So I get a soft spot in my heart because all my kids were young. My wife was asleep. And so I sat in my basement and I, drank champagne and watched that. So I probably didn't even drink champagne. So there you go. Real quick on the team itself, guys. Story for the most talk this week. And I watched a little of their game against Wisconsin, a little of Washington. First thing that I'm going to talk about when I see them is their young defensive linemen and edge rushers who have been putting a ton of pressure, and you've got freshmen Sidney Stewart, Zahir Mathis. Between them, those guys have 8 sacks this year between the two of them. Yikes. Whew. These guys are freshmen.
Stewart has a sack in every game this season.
Yeah.
Or at least half a sack in every game.
And he got kicked out on a controversial play on a targeting in the end of the first half against Washington. And you wonder if that doesn't happen.
That helped change the game.
Yeah, you wonder if that doesn't happen, if that game completely changes.
As much as people focus on Maryland's defensive front, the fact that they rank among the national leaders in sacks, and that is concerning given Nebraska's offensive line, they also have 9 interceptions through 5 games this season. They rank, I think, second nationally in picks.
Yep.
So it's more than just a pass rush with Maryland. And what's fascinating is they're a defensive team. Mike Loxley is an offensive guy.
Yeah.
But their defense is the strength. They're averaging 13 points per game allowed, which keeps them in about everything. And it wasn't until the fourth quarter against Washington last week that they had trailed in any game this year. So when they led Washington at halftime, I looked at the score and I started thinking, when Nebraska goes to Maryland next week, will it be a chance at a ranked win?
You're right.
We had mentioned that.
Might have been.
But they didn't, Maryland didn't hang on. They let that game get away from them. So though the Huskers are favored in this game, Maryland is not a bad opponent.
Yeah. Got a variety of receiving targets. Octavian Smith is their yardage leader, but Shalik Knotts is their second in yards, and he's got 5 touchdowns this year. Jaleel Farouk, they also like to go to. They've got 3 receivers who are having pretty robust seasons, but story on offense is obviously the 5-star true freshman quarterback, Malik Washington, thrown into the fire this year and been pretty good with it. 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions this year, 60% clip that he's passing at. And while he is an athletic quarterback, he's one of those athletic quarterbacks that would rather pass it than run it, even though he can run it a little bit, is what I've seen.
They
so
really
far.
have not done a lot with his legs. Now, he does have a couple of touchdowns, but those are from very short yardage. So this isn't going to be the same kind of a threat that we saw last week with Aiden Childs. Offensively, though, they're challenged a bit because they don't run the ball. They're not good at it at all. None of their running backs average more than 3.5 yards a carry. So this is a game where Maryland, in my opinion, first of all, they can't get blasted on special teams. It's a team that gives up some decent yards on kickoff returns. So there's an opportunity here for Nebraska to have a good day with special teams again. They really lean into their defense, and we mentioned those 9 interceptions. So that means their starting field position has been pretty good. They've returned 2 of those interceptions for scores, but it's not like a really explosive offense. So when you factor that in with the lack of a really good running game, I think Nebraska's defense has the chance here to have another good game like they did last week. It's weird because they gave up 27 points, but I don't feel like Nebraska played poorly on defense. There were just a couple of times where Childs got away, and you give him credit for doing that. But I don't think Maryland has a player that's going to threaten Nebraska in that kind of a way. So I think there's a chance here that as long as, Nebraska doesn't make the catastrophic mistake, and a lot of that's going to boil down to protecting the passer, not getting, pressure up in Dylan's face. If they can mitigate some of that damage, I think Nebraska can really dominate on the other side of the matchup and win this game. Not super comfortably, but I think they can definitely cover the spread.
Malik Washington has thrown for over 1,200 yards already this year. And you're right that he does like to just throw the ball. He doesn't want to run it. And when he throws it, he distributes it pretty evenly. There are a number of guys who get targeted on this offense for Maryland. And if you look at the catch distribution, the top 3 guys, there's even a fourth that, he gets the ball thrown his way multiple times. So that tells me Sierra Wright isn't going to have another game where they just avoid whoever he's guarding.
Right.
Sierra Wright's actually going to get some action this week.
Right.
Because that's what Maryland does offensively. And I'm excited to see that. And it's really strength on strength. Maryland wants to throw the football. Nebraska's probably saying, especially in that secondary, bring it on.
Right.
Because in Sierra's case, he hasn't had many chance to get an interception or break up a pass or impact the game. He's impacting the game by having nothing happen around him.
Right.
So Deshaun Singleton could, John Butler jokingly said those are 2 of the easiest interceptions in the history of college football. And he's right. I mean, they were throwing right Deshaun's way, but he can actually get a chance to maybe make a few plays this week.
Right. And back to that quarterback, the comp is not. It's not a running. It's not a running quarterback. Again, he can run. He's 6'5", 230. Like this is Daniel Jones size is the better comp. For him. If you're thinking about, I mean, that's Peyton Manning size. To be honest, he's big. So not a ton of speed, but again has some ability to run. But he's not going to be as big of a running threat as either of the last two quarterbacks at Nebraska.
And Nebraska's defensive line, the narrative is starting to change with that group. At the beginning of the year, I don't know about these guys. They got something to prove because you're replacing Ty Robinson and Nash. And, after the Michigan game showed some steps forward, just minor steps. And then last week, it's like, they took another step forward. Well, here's a huge opportunity to take a leap forward with that defensive front. If they can get pressure on Washington, the whole thing for Maryland is going to break down.
Yep. Let's grab a break right now. I've got a couple of questions I'd like Kevin to weigh in that we've been kind of debating throughout the course of the show. We'll do that and the picks. I'm very excited to talk about the picks this week.
Glad you are.
We'll find out why in just a little bit. Just an LNK today with Jack and Friends of the Friday Husker Tailgate on KLIN.
When you're thinking Huskers,
Swings and hammers this one. Deep left field. It is gone.
think 1499.3 KLIN. This is your year where your team takes Welcome back to the Friday Husker Tailgate on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499 AM.
All right, it's 8:39. Welcome back. Friday Husker Tailgate. A few minutes here before we get to the picks, but wanted to have Kevin Suits weigh on some of the things we've been discussing throughout the show today. Kevin, the lion's share of the conversation, it feels like, around last weekend, and to the extent things didn't go right, was the pass rush that Michigan State was able to get, and now 2 weeks in a row where Dylan Raiola has really been under duress frequently when he drops back to pass. Part of the discussion is, where is it? Is it the offensive line? Is it Dylan? Sure, it's somewhere in the middle between those. But I think the other question that I'm interested in is, what can Nebraska do to mitigate it other than just say, hey, get better at what you're doing? Is there more Nebraska has its tool bag when it comes to play calling, personnel, those sorts of things? What's your overall thought on where that issue stands right now for Nebraska?
Just be patient. Seriously, because you got to have a little bit of patience and grace with them, because they're trying to figure out what the best combination on the offensive line is. Now, they haven't messed with the interior of the offensive line, but they've toyed around on the outsides. And sometimes when you make a change or you're experimenting with different things, once you decide what you're going to do, like, it's not going to be a quick fix. Gunnar Gatula going to the right side, sounds like that's what they're going to do. Well, he had played the entire season on the left side. So maybe allow him more than one game to settle in on the right side, and then Elijah Pritchett being elevated to play on the left side. Granted, that's where he's been, but he hasn't played an entire game. So maybe allow him a little bit of a rope just to be patient with it. So, and I think Nebraska's schedule could do this offensive line some favors, because if they go out this week and protect the quarterback, what is that going to do for their confidence? It's going to do quite a bit. And it comes up on the stretch where they could gain some more confidence. So I don't know that there needs to be any big time changes. In fact, I think moving guys around or inserting second string, third string, just trying to find the right guy might do more damage than good. Just take your top line and let them play, and you hope that they continue to get better. And the other thing about the 5 sacks in the Michigan State game, 3 of them came in a bunch. And so it's not like Dylan was getting put to the ground time and time and time again throughout the game. No, it was just like there was one stretch where they started on the 26 and ended up on the opposite side of the 50. And that was bad.
There's a bad snaps there too.
And there was a bad snap in there.
But it's like that was just a bad stretch. If you remove that, Nebraska gave up 2 sacks. And here's the other thing. How many times is Dylan throwing the football and just getting licked as he throws the ball? When he's getting taken to the ground, it is a sack. It's not like he's being brought to the ground time and time again when he's throwing the ball, and it's not a sack. So it's actually not terrible. Who am I, Mr. Positivity?
Yeah, wow.
Yes. Kevin Suits.
And to be patient. But I really think, for me, Lord. Is there concern? Yes.
Sunshine Award.
Oh. I like that. I like what you did there.
Then here's my other question too, and you have a good point there, and that may be something that kind of progresses. But I think the other thing is there are things, and I think Nebraska started to do this later in the game. But when it comes to play calling, right? What do you do when a team's pinning its ear back and sending the pass rush in? There are things that you can do with play calling to start to disincentivize them to do that. Screen pass, right? Getting some other rush actions, misdirections, those sorts of things. And then the other biggest thing is just have a running game that the other side fears. And that gets me to the next thing we've been discussing is somehow you've got Emmett Johnson in a spot where his stats look very good, look really good. Yet it also somehow also seems like defenses are not too worried about Nebraska's running game, particularly as the field gets shorter.
Are defenses not concerned with Nebraska's running game?
I don't know. I feel like the pass
that's
kind
interesting.
I
haven't not thought about that till this moment.
I also think particularly the problems within the red zone is because I don't think Nebraska has. This is what Bishop said earlier, and I agree with him. I don't think Nebraska trusts the running game, especially when the defenses know that it's likely coming.
Yeah, because go back to the Michigan game when they decided to go for it on 4th and whatever, and they ran a shuttle pass to Luke Lindenmeyer. Right. If they trust the running game, you run the football there. So there is some credence to that line of thinking. I'll summarize it this way. If teams want to blitz, and if that's the question here, Jack, about like what do you do with defenses bringing the house? Well, it actually plays into Nebraska's favor based on the personnel, because you have a number of guys you can run jet sweep, tunnel screens. You've got Ja'Cory Barney, you've got Dane Key, you got an Isaiah Hunter. Like, there are so many weapons you can use, not on the perimeter, but in the slot. Just get the ball there, let them run.
And that's what they did with Isaiah Hunter, and we saw what happened.
So it leads me to this, and this is something we talked about last week, and I'll say it again this week. More creative play calling, please.
Yes.
Like, don't make it look traditional. They have so many weapons. Like, let's play. You know, it's like you just went to the toy store and you went down to your 3-year-old and said, look, here's this and that, and you are setting your playpen for the next 5 hours. Well, it's like you gave them all these toys, but yet they're playing with the thing that they've had for the past 2 years.
They're playing with a box.
Right. Yeah. Like, let them crank the thing and wind it up. And we saw it one time. But I just think we don't need to be in the red zone to get creative. Do it on the 50.
Right. And you
do it when you're backed up. Just keep guys on their heels. And, you know, if you start to show more of that, the defense gets less comfortable.
Yes.
So that's my number one thing is I jokingly said last week, go Tim Beck mode. Do some goofy stuff, especially with the personnel. Heinrich Harburg, and they did. That's how they scored.
Yes.
You know, they brought in Heinrich Harburg, and I went flashback into this room the previous day. Like, they're doing it.
Yeah, I did too.
You know, like, it's great.
I used your Tim Beck line.
Yes. So that was so good. Just do it more. And I think that there are so many benefits from doing that. Most importantly, like, you can showcase some of your athletes in pretty unique ways. And secondly, you can really mess with the defense and the defensive play calling.
Mm-hmm.
And then you open it back up for the more traditional stuff.
And then the tunnel screen just becomes like, oh, yeah, we can do that too.
Yeah.
Not we need to do that.
We can do it.
Listen, I want that defense up front to be worried about Ja'Cory Barney and where he's at. More than they are.
You need to make sure that people are saying we've got to account for that guy on every play. You want it to get to the point where they're having to overcommit to one guy, and then because we talked about earlier with Dane Key, doesn't seem like he's getting the targets. Well, a lot of that is because right now a lot of the defensive focus is to make sure, that guy's pretty good. Make sure, but you've got multiple weapons on the field.
I still believe they have so much more in their bag that they're not showing. And I think that's what's like part of my frustration is I know they have some things. They're just holding on to them. And I don't know why just do it now because Dana Holgerson is smart enough, creative enough, and, you know, he has such a wide ranging span of experience that he's got some things up his sleeve.
It's not apples to apples, but a team that I can think of had an interesting experience with this last year. Didn't have a great offensive line, had their quarterback under pressure. The quarterback sometimes held it too long. And what did they do with it? Colorado Buffaloes last year, interestingly enough. And they found a guy to get the ball to who was very dynamic, who was not necessarily the biggest. I don't know.
The only time in my life I want the Huskers to be like Colorado.
So Heisman Trophy's coming to Lincoln?
It's not a dissimilar situation.
Is he playing defense now?
Yeah, they don't need anyone in the secondary. Unlike Colorado, they don't need anyone in the secondary. 8:48, we'll take a break. We'll talk about the picks, what we've got coming up this week. Really good slate of college football. We'll see if we get some division in the picks. That's all coming up next on KLIN.
When you're thinking Huskers,
For 3 to tie the game right, will you? Betcha! Are you kidding me?
think 1499.3 KLIN. Bragging rights means everything to these guys. Let the trash talk begin. It's time to call your shot in the Friday Husker Tailgate of the week. Presented by Exchange Bank on Lincoln's Husker Radio, 1499.3 KLIN.
Well, we got a change in the standings. Ooh. I had my week last week, 4 for 4 on the head-to-head games, and then you all laughed at the Akron Zips, the team that all of college football is talking about right now, as they went and beat the Chippewas outright. I said wrong team was favored. I was correct. That's 2 points. That gets me 6 total for the week, and no one else could do much. John got a couple in the head-to-head, but he was banking on Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia, as was Nate.
The heck are you thinking, Jalen? Jeez,
backdoor touchdown.
No scoring.
Kills them at the end. They don't even get the point. Kevin, luckily, was close to nailing the Nebraska-Michigan State score. For a second week in a row, we almost had someone get it exactly right. Just missed it, but he does get those points. And so I took 6. I'm in first now with 23. John's in second with 20.5. Kevin's third at 14, and Nate in the back with 10 points, in double digits now, though.
Hey,
all right,
got that.
So, all right, let's go through this week's games head to head, and we'll go in order of standings. Me, John, Kevin, Nate. First one in the SEC. I wonder if I'm going to regret putting this on because it's just going to be unanimous. Alabama at Missouri.
Is it?
I'm going to make sure it's not unanimous. I'm going to start off. I've always loved the Missouri Tigers. I said it earlier in the show. One of my all-time favorite programs. Give me Missouri.
So you think the Tide won't be able to cross the busy state,
That's exactly
four-lane
right.
state
That's
highway,
right.
and they won't be able to show
it's
up
like
for the
a
game?
Frogger situation for them.
This is a tricky game. Purbuella's good.
Best running back in the nation, maybe,
Alabama
too.
proved last week that they won't suffer a letdown. Now, this will be a real challenge because you go to Columbia. This is the biggest game that Mizzou's had at home in the SEC in quite some time. I know they won a division a few years ago.
2003 Nebraska.
With that said, though, roll Tide.
Ty Simpson's really good.
Yes.
He's averages about 300 passing yards per game, completing over 70% of his passes. Another opportunity for him. I'm going to take the Tide and Ty Simpson.
Me and Harvey Updike are rolling together. Roll Tide.
All right.
Gonna make a lot of people mad.
All right. I'm going to extend my lead. Indiana at Oregon in the Big Ten. I had some guts with that first one. Not here. Slippers off. Oregon, double digits.
Yeah, this kind of... Even though I think Indiana is better this year than they were last year, I think going out to Eugene and you're facing Dan Lanning, and guess who holds a chip on his shoulder even bigger than the one that Cignetti holds on his? Ducks.
I can't wait for this.
Yeah, Dan Lanning is not losing to Kurt Cignetti. Oregon wins.
Quack, quack, quack.
All right, all the way around. Red River shootout rivalry. Oklahoma versus Texas. I don't know. This goes against where everything is, and so that's just kind of why I'm doing it. But I feel like Texas will probably rebound and win this somehow.
There's a lot of experts that like Texas because I don't think they want to pull the trigger on the Longhorns already being out of the national title race. But Oklahoma, John Mateer is trying to get back for this game.
Wow, it's quick. And best defense in the nation right now.
And I think Mateer will be back. Boomer.
All right.
I'll take the Horns. Hate doing it, but I'm going to do it.
I can't do it. Boomer.
All right. Half and half on that one. And I think maybe the most interesting of all of them, Michigan at USC. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Michigan, I wonder. I want them to be really good after what happened with Nebraska. I watched them against Wisconsin, and I think I'll take USC in this one.
This is an interesting spot for USC because they only have 2 games this month, but they're both against rivals. This one and then Notre Dame. I like a team that can run the ball on the road. Trojans.
I think Michigan's the better team. So I'll just take the better team, Michigan.
All right. If this game were being played in Ann Arbor, I'd take the Wolverines. Too long of a trip. SC at home, I'll take the Trojans.
All right, upset pick. Who you got in this 7 or more point underdog? They did it last week. I think they're great now. Give me UCLA plus 7.5 at Michigan State.
Oh, he's feeling it.
Watch out for them in the playoff.
That was one I considered, but I am going to go to the South's oldest rivalry. Ooh. And for those of you who don't know what that is, that's Georgia at Auburn. Auburn getting 7.5.
Ooh, good pick.
Give me War Eagle.
On the heels of Cam Scadaboo's 3-touchdown performance on Thursday Night Football, I'll take his alma mater, Arizona State, getting 7.5, going to Utah.
Jeff Sims could play that game.
Jeff Sims might be a quarterback. Which, by the way,
I'm now rooting for Arizona State. Let's go.
I learned yesterday he's still in college. I had no idea.
And Akers is still paying him.
Yeah.
Does he
And
still
Amigos?
Can I still get that Amigos deal of his?
Which was reinstated if he pulls it off.
Which was 2 turnovers and a Pepto-Bismol.
Hey, KU is at Texas Tech. I'm still not riding with the Raiders. KU 14.5-point dog. They at least cover that.
Ooh, that is a big number, isn't it?
Indeed.
I think that's probably a pretty good one. All right, Nebraska, Maryland. Everybody saying low scoring? Kind of. I'm not going to go too crazy with that. I do think this will be tight to the end. I went back and forth. I honestly pulled the trigger the other way, but I'll take Nebraska 27, Maryland 21.
I do like the under on this one because the weather, I think, is going to be a little more inclement. I think these defenses are pretty good. I'll go 24-14 Nebraska.
33-10 or 33-20, excuse me.
Ooh.
33-20 Nebraska.
Either way, wow.
I'm in the same neighborhood as Suits. I think a little more dominant, Big Red. 31-14 Cornhuskers.
That would be a world I would love to live in next week if that happens. We will see. All right, that's it for the Friday Husker Tailgate. We'll be back on game day next week for Minnesota, so we'll figure that out. See you then. For John, for Kevin, for Nate, for Kenny, for Mark, for Chris, everybody, thanks so much for joining us. Have a great weekend. I'll see you this afternoon with John and Josh for Drive Time Lincoln. See you then, 9 o'clock.